So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys. Honored to be here.
Yeah. So guys, it is Wednesday and it is the 1st of July. I said this on my little Fanatic stream earlier today, but we are officially halfway through the year.
Wow.
I was looking at my calendar, all the shows that I've already done, all the shows that are coming up the second half of the year, and it still feels like we are just in full sprint mode. Are you guys feeling the same way?
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, Will just came back from Singapore, which we're going to talk about. So how's the jet lag, man? Are you adjusted?
No, I think I'm pretty good with jet lag because we fly often enough. I know a lot of the shows aren't international, but I think I'm so used to sleeping at the right times when I need to sleep and waking up at the right times when I wake up. So I'm not jet lag at all. Hopefully I sleep tonight. It's been like one night since I got back, so I don't know if I fully adjusted, but I think I'm good.
Okay. I'm impressed.
What's the hour difference between here and Singapore? It's like tomorrow there,
Yeah.
right?
It's tomorrow. So usually when it's night here, it's like noon or daytime over there. So it's like total flip-flop opposite. Yeah.
Okay. And are they like, again, I'm totally ignorant to this. Are they still on our side of the equator where they have the same seasons, or are they south?
So they're close to the equator. I don't know if it matters whether you're south or south and north obviously changes. Like it makes it the opposite, but
you're right.
If it's closer to the equator, it's going to be hot no matter what.
Right.
So
right.
I went over there, I landed there, and the minute you get out, it's so humid. I don't know if you've been. Yeah, you probably went to Orlando, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to Orlando around this time of year, you walk outside and start sweating because it's so humid. I'm from an island. I was born on an island, so I kind of expect it and kind of used to it. But the minute I landed, I walked outside and started sweating. I asked the cab driver what the best time to come is, what time of the year is the best time to come, and he's like, it's like this all year round. They don't have they legitimately are hot like the entirety of the year, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk more about this trip, how the card show went, the types of deals that were going down. But before we get into our main topic, which is about the high-end Pokemon card market, and we're going to be talking about ponchos and Marios and gold stars and all that kind of stuff. Let's kind of recap what happened in our last program and then go through some traditional topics. Does that sound good?
It does.
Yeah.
Not a ton to recap. The last one was an unusually slow news week. So we just did a ton of Q&A, really. I mean, there were a few things we went through, our usual stuff, but we skipped Hitmon topics for, I think, the first time ever, which we're not doing today, but which some people missed. We introduced some new segments, so go check those out. But yeah, I mean, it was like half a Q&A, which was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get the Q&A. And it was one of those things where it was like, as we were answering questions, like 2 more would pop up. It was like question Hydra. And there's just no way we could ever get to the end of them. So as always, we do a Q&A session at the end of every stream. So if you got questions like I see this about Destined versus Ascended, we'll star that and we'll answer it at the end of the stream. Thanks for being here, guys. But maybe we get right into some show and tell with some personal collection pickups, some deal chat, and that kind of stuff.
I'm so worried we're about to get mogged bad by Will, but
we're about to get deal mogged in a huge way.
Hold on. I think at this point I got to go first, right? Because we're talking about it. But I want to preface that I wasn't going to pick the most valuable or the biggest card or whatever like that. I was just going to pick a cool PC pickup. But I think what I chose goes in line with what this episode's going to talk about. So that's why I chose.
Nice. Let's see it, bro.
All right. So I chose the Japanese Gold Star Rayquaza PSA 10.
Wait, you PC'd this?
Well, so I have 3 copies, actually. This is the one I'm keeping for now. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring all 3 on, but yeah. I just figure we're going to talk about it later, but the English Gold Star Rayquaza is on auction right now on alt. It's going to set a record. I think that Gold Stars, I know for a fact that Gold Stars are popping off the entire year. I can't afford the English one. I can kind of justify the Japanese one, so that's why I went for that.
Wow.
So I don't know much about this because there's the Japanese Gold Stars. A lot of them were, the way you acquired them was pretty unique. Like I know the Umbreon, for example, was like basically unobtainable. So the Rayquaza, tell us about this and the variants of it. You pull that from a pack?
Yeah, you get this from a pack. It's Clash of Blue Sky. It's the same pack with Gold Star Latios and Latios, just like in English.
Right.
It's a higher pop, significantly higher pop. Well, first of all, in English, EX Deoxys is just a poorly printed set. Like the entire set print run was not. You get like whitening all over the edges and all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
silvering and stuff.
Yeah, in Japanese, obviously, same as now, it's not the case. So I believe this set has unlimited and first set. The first set is more expensive. The one I have here is unlim. I think the first set is like a pop 100, and the unlim is like a pop 150. So still not super high, but English is like a pop 50.
Right.
So that's why it's the same way you get it. It's not like actually Umbreon Espeon's cases, both in English and Japanese, you didn't get from a pack either. I mean, I guess Pop Series is a pack, but it's not your traditional release. But for the Rayquaza, it's the same.
Nice. And I remember earlier this year, I think I was at Atlanta Collecticon. And this year, all the Collecticons that I've been at the same booth with Bulbasaur and Dawson from Flipping Cardboard.
Yep.
And there was like all this hubbub because on day one of the show, Dawson had bought a Gold Star Japanese Ray from somebody. And then another seller that we know who has a big successful booth at Frankensons in SoCal. What's the name of his store at Frankensons?
I actually don't know what the booth is called, but they have two Instagram accounts. One's Charizard Vault, the other one's OCTCG.
Yes. Okay, so Wee comes up to Dawson, buys the Gold Star Ray at apparently a good enough margin that Dawson's like, yeah, take it, and then walks like across maybe 2 sections down and sells it to another vendor for like a 20K increase.
Wow.
And at that time, the Gold Star Ray was like in the 50, 60K range. Yeah. What's it doing now? Only 3-4 months later.
So there is a public sale. The public sale isn't indicative of the actual market value. I say that not to get like super, private sales and all this stuff. It's because I don't know if you knew, but there was a Gold Star Espeon play promo, Japanese. I think it was a PSA 10. It went on auction on a random, I think Wednesday, I want to say, like 2 months ago, from an account that's not been active. It's just a random eBay account, which you don't put these cards on, by the way. If anyone has any of these cards, don't just auction it on your own eBay account.
Yeah.
Anyway, they put up the Espeon and the Rayquaza. Everyone thought it was fake. No one bid on it. It ended at 109,000 or 103,000 or whatever it was. And I believe I don't know if it got shipped. I don't know who the buyer was, but it ended up being a legit collector who has an old YouTube channel and used to post stuff of Pokemon videos. So that technically is a sale, but even before that sale, that auction went through, these were selling for higher privately. So right now, I would say the estimated value is around 150,000
for the Ray.
Yeah, for the unlimited version.
Right.
The first one will go for, I think, just sold for like 190.
Wow. And all 3 of your copies are unlims or first eds? Unlims.
Yeah. It's just the ones you can get the best deals on, to be honest. It's not because of preference or anything like that.
Yeah. And wow, yeah, sorry, I just keep asking questions. I'm so fascinated. Very cool, dude. And all these deals, these huge rays that you're buying, are these mostly like big trades? Or are you like cashing people out who reach out to you? How does it usually go down?
So in my experience, the people who are selling these cards are mainly looking to cash out because they got in so low.
Right.
They're not looking to take more stuff and trade and sell it after that. So all these so far, I've purchased 4 copies in the last 3 or 4 months, and they've all been cash. All of them full cash.
Love it. Dude, yeah. Good for you.
Wow.
Will making big moves. Okay, so yes, Ricky, we're getting PC mogged right now.
Yeah. I'll go next, so I have something more than usual.
Okay. Ooh.
That's nasty.
You'll notice something interesting.
So we have a NBA gold sticker on a PSA 7?
Yes.
So tell me why.
I certainly have opinions on that one. Well, I'll set it here. What do you guys think about that?
It's a strong 7.
It is actually a strong 7.
I hope so.
But I am curious what I'm curious what your take is.
You're gonna ask me or ask Jake?
Both of you guys. You guys know more about this is I think as far as a purchase, the most I'm into a single card for that is in my PC. I have similar value things that I got into 2 years ago at an 1/8 of the price or whatever, but just outright spending about $9,000 on a single PC item This is like the most that's new for me. So you guys know this sort of world more than I do. I can tell you the story on the diamond and my thoughts on it, but just curious your guys on a PSA 7 especially.
Go ahead, Will.
Did you rate it yourself with NBA, or was it already?
I did not. The guy I bought it from did.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Oh,
you go ahead. You know more about NBA than I do.
I do.
I've never done it before.
If you guys don't have an opinion, that's fine. I'll.
No, I do. I wasn't sure if Jake wanted to take the hit first, because this is going to be controversial, whichever side you pick.
Totally.
Do you want me to give like an overview of what NBA is?
Maybe folks in the chat aren't familiar, so maybe it's not a bad idea to speak to that.
Okay.
So real quick,
NBA,
my understanding. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. You probably know more than I do.
Okay, yeah. NBA stands for Mike Baker Authority. I believe this is what the A stands for. Mike Baker. Take a look at it. Let me know. Double check.
Actually, it doesn't say on this. It is Mike Baker. Yeah, it is Mike Baker. It doesn't say what.
Mike Baker was, I believe, the person who created the grading scale at PSA. He was one of the first graders, or was the first grader. He worked there for a bunch of years, left, and eventually started his own grading company per se. I think they do slab cards, but no one does it.
They do.
Yeah. Okay. So most people use it for the stickers. There's 3 stickers: silver, gold, and black. I believe they represent the eye appeal based on the population in that grade. So if you get an NBA Gold PSA 7, it's like the top 10% of other PSA 7s, something along those lines. I don't know if that's percentage is correct or not, accurate or not. I believe it's 10%. Black would be like top 1% of PSA 7s, and silver I think is a 30% or something like that, whatever it might be. What do I think about it? I think it has a place in the hobby because it's been around for a long time and it's pretty prevalent in sports cards.
Yeah.
So I've been around it and I've been exposed to it for a long time. It just finally started hitting Pokemon cards. I think it has a place. I don't like the way people are like running for to dig the gold, like the gold rush, Like I feel like at every show we have a bunch of people posting their NBA grades on cards that don't really need to have NBA grades on them, but they're doing it just to say they can add a premium on it or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a fan of it. I like how they look, at least. I don't like that you have to pay so much money to do it, and I hate that the upcharge. But I mean, if it was for PC and I found a really pristine copy, I want a second opinion to look on it,
I think I'm gonna fall on the other side. Like if we are in the business of accepting like a third-party opinion on the quality of a card already, then having a second opinion for that third opinion, I think can actually be valuable, because the main gripe with PSA, for example, is the subjectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the main gripe, is that a human is doing it, and for all we know, they had a bad lunch and then they came back to work and were grumpy and gave you a bad grade. Like that's like a classic trope in the hobby. And so if you have a card that like you really want to kind of show that it's better than what the grade it received, then that's the way to do it. And in my experience, from when I look at the copies that receive the stickers and stuff, I agree with them. So like they're actually clean copies. And I, for one, I do have one singular card that I am heavily considering getting this service with. Now, having it on a 7, I haven't seen that. I've only seen people do it with PSA 10s or Beckett 10s. I have not seen it on lower grades. And so when you showed me that, I was like, interesting. But if the point of it is to like not necessarily override the grade, but like to say, okay, on what side of the spectrum is this card in this grade, then yeah, I think it makes sense. Like we're talking about items that have thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. Like get a second opinion.
So I didn't pay much of a premium on this. This was a deal with a local guy who I have a good relationship with. I paid very close to market, like, recent public comps, actually a little under that, and lower than the previous or the current low listing for a 7. I will say I'm not Mike Baker. I'm not an expert, and but I've looked at enough. I've looked at many cards. I did compare it to a bunch of other 7s, and it was a nice 7. The back in terms of the whitening, like folks can look up the cert if they want to. The back in terms of the whitening is less than other copies, including a 16 cert that I saw. So I was offered a 16 cert for $100 less than I ultimately paid for this copy. And this has like a partial, it's probably not going to show up, but it has a partial swirl on it. He has like an orb in his mouth, kind of like it's a cool copy, like from an eye appeal standpoint. I do think compared to the 4 or so other 7s I looked at, I did think it was the nicest subjectively. So, I do think it's a little goofy, and if I were to go to sell it, I wouldn't be like, well, it has NBA Gold 20% premium, which is, the guy I bought it from didn't do the same thing to me. So I think there's, I personally think doing it on the black labels is kind of funny because the black label is already supposed to represent that. But I personally think it's really valid on 10s because like 10s really aren't equal, and I think there's a huge like sliding scale there. So I actually kind of like the idea, especially on like vintage 10s, of an additional third party saying this is a silver, gold, or black based on a lot of the 10s that we've looked at or whatever. How do they know? I think someone in the chat was like, how do they know that? I don't know the answer to that because, I highly doubt that they've gone and inspected every single PSA 7 Crystal Lugia. So I thought it was a little goofy in buying it. When I was buying it, I was like, look, man, I understand, but like, I can't pay a premium for it, but I do like your copy more, even though it's an 8 cert and not a 16 cert. I'm being offered a 16 cert for cheaper. I do like this one better. And if I can do the deal with somebody I know personally, who I trust, that's worth the extra $100 for me on a card of this caliber. So anyway, that's sort of my unofficial stance is on a 7, it's kind of goofy. And I wouldn't ask for more money if I went to sell it because of that. But it is the best 7 of the 4 or 5 I looked at, and I'm super happy to own it.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same boat. I don't think it makes sense on anything below a PSA 10. Maybe like EGS 9.5, or a high-end PSA 9, maybe. Like if you had like a Aquapus Lugia and a PSA 9 and you got it a gold diamond, I think that makes a little bit of sense. Not like a modern card, obviously. So I'm in the same boat though.
So Ricky, why now? Why jump on the Crystal Lugia now, and why a 7? And all those questions.
Yeah, man, all valid questions because I didn't choose those things randomly. I was looking for 6, 7, or 8. 6, 7. I know. I got there first. Because it was like, look, there could be a really good 6. There could be kind of a good deal on an 8, but I think this TLDR answer is FOMO. I love this. I love this card. I like Lugia a lot. I think this is one of the greatest cards ever, personally.
Yeah.
If I made a top 50, this would be on that list for me for sure.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people. As the prices are going up, as obviously the sort of fairly substantiated rumor about it being sort of valid, that it's going to be part of the 30th anniversary. Like, we haven't, I don't think we've seen anything super official, but it was part of the trailer. So I think it's kind of accepted that somehow Crystal Lugia is going to make an appearance. Some people are sort of buying that rumor. So the price started going up. So the way I looked at this is an expensive card, but it is still, I'm fortunate that this is accessible to me at this price. And in a 7, I have a very good copy of a card that would cost, I think, more than 10 times as much to buy in a 10, but I have a copy that's, maybe it's 70% or 80% of the quality of a 10 for 10% of the price. To me, it just felt like really optimized. And I don't know what else to say. It's mostly FOMO. I was worried that eventually this would get really expensive and I'd wish that I had bought it sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a fabulous Pokemon card. Nice pickup, man. Congrats.
Yeah, man. I think when we talk about PC pickups, we're less concerned about the price fluctuating up and down. So I think picking up a card like that at the time right now, yeah, awesome.
Totally. In the long run, I don't really sweat it. If it comes down $2,000 or if it goes up $2,000 or whatever, I don't really care. Like it would have to go down by a lot for me. I mean, even if it went down by a lot,
you would just keep it on. Yeah.
All right, mine is really simple, and it wasn't something I was planning on picking up, but the deal made sense. And so I was at my booth at Phoenix Front Row. And when things like this walk across the booth, I usually buy them with the intention to sit on them just because they're unique, not because I think that they're like perfect for resale or anything. Although, you know, I do always want to try to buy them for a deal so that if I had to get out of it, then I could. But I picked up this here.
Oh, yeah.
This sealed Japanese starter deck.
I got offered that at Collecticon Phoenix. I know the guy. I bought actually kind of it's sort of siblings. This came from the same guy.
Oh, Phoenix. The Neo one.
Yeah, I bought this from that same guy a month ago. Sorry, not to steal your thunder, but yeah,
I didn't get offered one.
Yeah, sorry, Will. Anyways, cool deck there, Ricky. Anyways, here's mine. Here's mine. And there is a non-zero chance that this has no rarity cards in it, but I don't think it's like the right code for it to be like the higher probability or whatever. Either way, really cool. Never owned this before. And yeah, I'm gonna kind of add it to my items, my Japanese sealed kind of exclusive release items that I'm excited to own. And yeah, that was a fun little pickup for my
Jake. I got a quick question for you. If it's not guaranteed to be no rarity or no rarity, how did you come up with the number? Are they all like that when you buy that deck, or are
yeah? So I just looked up comps for this deck with like the same SKU code and everything on the barcode.
So there are different variations of that deck.
Yeah, there's. I mean, the variation really is just in the SKU code or
like an export code on the side. Code. I think it's like an export code. There is, I want to say on E4, there's like an encyclopedic deep dive on the codes for this. Yeah. So yeah. So someone really did an amazing job cataloging with photos and evidence of it and everything. So I think the specific code, Jake, on that one is essentially guaranteed not to have the no rarity. Right. And then there is a code that is basically guaranteed to have it. And I think there's 3 to 5 different variations, and they're sort of regional or batch related.
Right.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah. And there's also, I'm pretty sure there's a guaranteed holo in each deck, which is cool. But yeah, I just looked up kind of comps with, similar codes and scans and listings and availability. And it's another classic Japanese item where it's like, gone up by 8 or 10x in the last 6 months, just because people are finally paying attention to some of those cool exclusive releases. And yeah, I decided to pick it up. So added that.
Nice, man. Congrats. That's fun.
Yeah, man. Would you ever open it?
No, I don't think so. Again, like I like when I can pick up an item that feels a little bit like history. You know what I mean?
Same idea.
Crack it open for science. Rusty got it for 25 cents, Drew. It's different. I didn't pay 25 cents for mine.
maybe 25 cents times like 10,000 or something. I don't know how many decimals.
Yeah. Yes. A larger number. Yes.
E4 mentioned, yes. Shout out SM Pratt and E4, the OGs. On the NBA topic, Level X, our friend Jake, Roaring Skies Ray mentioned. We're going to come back to Roaring Skies Ray today.
We are.
He has a PSA 10 that would likely get an 8 or 9 on new parameters. So 10s on the NBA, on 10s the NBA label, or on new certs could matter. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it just depends on the card. Specifically like low pop stuff. Like it makes sense, especially if you have an older cert and you're hoping to kind of show people that it's actually worthy of being a 10.
Totally. Shout out James.
Yes, that is Pokestop, Will. Shout him out.
We love it.
I think pricing on the NBA golds on like PSA 10s have reflected a higher increase. So yeah, I mean the market agrees. Yeah.
On 10s.
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough data to look at the the other grades and other cards. Yeah. But for 10s, yeah.
Do you have a sense? It's totally fine if not. It might be a hard question. Do you have a gut sense of what premium they command?
It's nothing crazy, maybe like 10-20% probably.
Yeah. Exactly what I would expect.
The black diamonds is where it even gets more skewed. Like it's so random. It can be sometimes like a 50% bump, a 3x or 5x, or like somewhere within that spectrum. It's crazy. Yeah,
Jake, you told a story a few episodes ago of I want to say it was a Luigi poncho where they got it graded same day and sold it for 50% over.
Yeah, it's funny because Will and I were chatting in the DMs that same day because he also had seen a copy, maybe sold a copy just like that.
Maybe sold a copy.
Maybe. But it was, this was a different one than Will's, which was crazy because he was like, wait a second, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, it's like here at Front Row Vegas. So yeah, that was a Luigi full art. And it went for, what did I say? I think it was like 2.5x regular market price.
It was 60,000.
Okay, so that's like, it's like 3x basically.
Yeah, 3x, maybe a little bit more. Maybe I think Luigi was doing like 17 at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, it seems to me like it makes more sense giving a larger multiple when there's also comps for the black label, because then people kind of know like, okay, if this is actually so clean, what chance does it have to reach that like other thing that we have a comp for? Because the Luigi black label does what, Will, like 300,000, or it was doing so bad.
300 like last year. Today it'd probably do like over 500,000.
So. Yeah.
I will say that I held this belief even before recent comps, but so that Luigi, the two Luigis you're talking about, sold maybe I want to say 2-3 months ago. When was Vegas? You don't remember what month?
April.
Yeah. Okay. So like 2.5 months ago was that Luigi sale. Since then, there have been comps on auctions on ponchos with the black diamond on it. And I always had the belief that if I auctioned my Luigi, I would have gotten killed because it's not a card you auction. You can if it's like a gold label, a gold diamond, but on a black diamond, on a card that big, you rarely want to. So I was tempted to auction it, never did. We talked about the number that the other one went for. Mine went for the similar ballpark. But in the last 2 weeks, I think a Charizard X and Y black diamond, I'm pretty sure they're Charizard X and Y. They sold, I think, on Golden and only did like a 30% bump, maybe even less.
Oh,
yeah. And yeah, it got killed.
The gem rate on those ponchos is better than Mario and Luigi, though, isn't it?
I wouldn't say there's a big difference. No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I don't think so. Like maybe like marginally, but it's not like where Rayquazas are like 50% pop. I mean, PSA 10 at least. Like I think Rayquazas are close to 50% gem rate, but the other ponchos are like high 80s, 90s. I want to say.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's 30 minutes in, and all we've shared is our PC stuff. So this is gonna be a long one.
Yeah. Well, after I told my wife, I was like, we stripped a couple things back to try to get it to be more like a 2.5-hour stream. But we've got an absolute ball knower in our presence, and it's hard not to sort of pick his brain a little bit.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Should we do our favorite or notable card deals since the last stream?
Yeah, let's do it. What do you got for us, Will? What's a notable deal you've been up to since I don't know, the last couple months?
Didn't want to go and like pick big numbers. I didn't pick a crazy big one, but West Coast Card Show. This was three weeks ago, I want to say, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was set up at the front and like towards the entrance, and two gentlemen come over. They're both named Christian, and they're like, "Oh, this is early on I think Thursday," and that's why being in the front matters, because the minute I got there, these two guys come up and they're like, "We want your Mario Luigi ponchos, the half arts, and we're buying it for a baseball player." And I'm like, "Okay, doesn't really matter to me. That's going to a baseball player. That could mean anything, you know, college baseball player, AAA. I don't know. Anyway, the price is the price, right? And that the baseball player wasn't in front of me, so these guys could be saying anything. Didn't think much of it. They're like, "You're gonna shop around, look for the best price, and we'll let you know if we want to make a deal." 2 or 3 hours go by, they come back and they're like, "Oh, we walked around. I was asking 18.5 or 18.1 at the time, and they said that they found another one in the back for 16.5." And I was kind of like, "It's a bit far off the sticker. It's a fair offer, but wasn't really looking to move it that quickly into the show." I told them they can shop around more. We can think about it, but I lowered my number down to 17. They leave and come back because they have to text the player to see if he wants to actually spend that money, because it's not their money to spend. And they're like, "He's actually in a game right now. It's the 4th inning, so he's not going to respond for a couple hours." Okay, it's one of those type of baseball players. All right. And they're like, "Yeah, it's for Jorge Soler. I think he's an outfielder for the Angels." Wow. And the Angels were out of town. like I said, in the game of 4th inning. So they're like, oh, we'll come back later, but we think we want to do it. So the very end of the day, and that first day ended late. I think it was like 9 p.m., 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So this was late in the day. They come back finally, and they're like, yeah, we want to be at 16.5. That's the lowest we saw, but we liked your vibe. We liked it. We liked you, and we want to do a deal with you. Thought about it a little bit. I was like, all right, yeah, I can do 16.5. So before we shake on it, though, they're like, we have to call him just to make sure one more time. So they get on FaceTime with him, and they're talking Spanish. And he turns it around to me, and Soler says, hey, I've seen you on YouTube. I've seen you on YouTube.
That's sick.
And he's like, yeah, it's going to my PC. It's thanks for the deal and all that stuff. And so we shook on the deal. We did it.
Dude.
So fun.
That is so cool. It's definitely one of the things that can happen in a hobby like this, where we have the chance to buy and sell cool items. You know, the celebs and the athletes and whoever else, they like to buy cool stuff. Seems.
Yeah. Further context, I won't take too much time. But so the guy that bought the card for me at the show worked in the ball club. So he said he was going to that show to look for stuff for Mike Trout, Jorge Soler, and some other guys on the team. And I'm like, Mike Trout buys Pokemon cards?
Yeah, what does Mike Trout want? I can go find it.
Well, I was like, is it for his kids? Because I think he's got 2 kids or something like that. And they're like, no, they just want to rip. So apparently they go on Whatnot under different names and rip Pokemon cards all the time.
Yes, secret whales with Whatnot burner accounts.
Yeah, seriously.
That's so sick.
Super fun.
What do you got, Ricky?
Mine's not as exciting maybe, but Jake, you and I were at Front Row Card Show in Phoenix this past weekend, which was an amazing show. My first front row. Saturday was super, super busy. I think
I saw your little campaign.
Yes, I did do a campaign and it worked. And I got to spend a little time with Angela at the show and just talk to her like, hey, thanks for kind of playing around with me. And she thought it was fun playing a little bit of that tag. But yeah, it was absolutely packed. Like could not eat, could not go to the restroom until 3:30. Literally me and JT did not do anything other than buy, sell, trade cards. Vibe was super awesome. I don't think there were any like robberies or anything. Like the security was super on point. Actually, Trader John's guys got caught up in a really funny thing when they tried to re-enter and they had to dump all their food out. Like the security was so on it that they wouldn't let them back in through the back entrance. But that's just how seriously they're taking it. So seriously, not lip service. It was like me and JT, like in the Uber home on Saturday, we're like, that was probably our favorite day. It wasn't the most lucrative day. Collecticon was a little bit bigger for us by the numbers, but probably the most fun and enjoyable, like all kinds of deals with all kinds of buyers, nonstop, like really great energy. It was in the Cardinal Stadium. Very cool. In any case, at the ends of both days, at the ends of each day, somebody came to my table with a collector list and said, I'm looking to sell a collection. And they're both about 10 to 14K collections. And they had said they had walked them around to other vendors and no one was taking them. No one was willing to take them. And they were really insistent on selling the whole thing at once in a single transaction. But every vendor, they had gone to a dozen vendors and they all just wanted to kind of like pick certain things out of it. I ended up ultimately buying both collections. And the main reason, normally I would have passed because there's a bunch of lower end stuff in these collections. I don't really like investing the time there, like the time involved in $5 cards and stuff. But I recently started selling lots of these. So just kind of in my downtime, like I'm watching Love Island with my wife. I'll just price out a bunch of like $10 cards, get to 600 of them, post them on Instagram, selling at 85%. And most of the time, the people that buy them are like sort of just newer or smaller scale, more casual vendors that are having a hard time sourcing stuff like that. And they need it for their binders. And just getting a bunch of stuff at, good condition at 85% is like a win for them. And I get rid of 20, 30 cards at a time. It's a win for me. And I'll probably still have 10% or something on room on that. So if I can make $100 for the hour of work pricing them out, that's not unreasonable. And so I guess I wanted to share that story because so many vendors passed on this and I also would have, but it just speaks to the value of like opening up new sales channels and experimenting with different ways of moving certain things. Cause like I really only wanted the upper half of those collections, but I have ways to make a little bit on the lower half that isn't like a bad use of my money. So, or my time rather than money. So yeah, I got 2 collection buyouts, a lot of really great stuff. I have another 30K collection in the mail coming. I've got 30K collection 40K collection I'm buying on Friday. So doing a lot of collection buyouts right now is kind of been the story.
Yeah. Pretty classic summer movement. When people are going to the show specifically to like get out of the hobby, if not temporarily,
Yeah.
And they're just moving like entire collections. I had a couple of those at my table as well. Big vintage collections, whole binders, and you could tell it's like this was their Charizard page and this was their Blastoise page, and you know what I mean. It's like legit, like they're moving out of a collection, and you can see like the work and intention they had put into it, which is always interesting to talk to people about.
Totally.
I had a couple of those, and then my big deal that I wanted to talk about it from Phoenix was like a 2-part deal, and something I'm seeing more and more frequently is people who have trading card businesses in Europe, specifically like UK, Belgium, Netherlands, those kind of countries. There's enough of an arbitrage, especially on modern cards, that they will go to US shows and like dump their vintage and stuff that they like see more frequently over there in English, just so they can like pick up like suitcases full of singles that are like from $5 to $50, because their domestic prices over there are like as high as 20% higher. And so like just doing like one show and spending 6 figures or so, and then going and streaming those cards over there or selling them at their shows, they can make a really solid margin, and then also, travel to the United States, which is kind of cool. So I did 2 different deals with a couple who was in that situation. They were from the UK, and the first deal was I bought like 25 or 30K worth of like 4-figure slabs, which was just like a stack of slabs like this high, and all of them were really solid. And then the second deal I did with them was, they were wanting to kind of eliminate all of the cash that they had picked up at the show. And so they, could just fly home with just cards instead of cash. And I'm sure Will has experience with that as well, going to international shows now. And so, yeah, we worked a big deal out where, they bought some of the modern singles that I had taken in at the show from some of the binders that I had bought. And they also picked up some other slabs that they wanted to speculate into, and ended up being, I think it was between 50 and 60K worth of deals just with that couple at the show, which was really cool to see. Wow. And it was really cool to see because it was just going to be mutually beneficial stuff. I bought stuff that they had good numbers on. They bought stuff I had good numbers on, and it was a great time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super crazy how there's so much arbitrage, even though it's the same market. Like, it makes sense when you go from the US to Asia, but US to other speaking countries, you wouldn't think that's a thing. But yeah, it is the case. Even for slabs too, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to me like it probably has something to do with the fact that, they have their own distribution, and therefore like their supply and demand ratio is just a little bit different than ours. And so there's opportunities for that arbitrage.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Interesting. All right, guys. I think it's time to get into the tall grass.
Let's do it. Let's dive in. We got to push this train forward if Will's going to get any sleep tonight.
Let's do it. Well, look, I'm going to just call it now on what we're going to find in the tall grass. I think it's a couple of Mr. Mimes, and maybe a Mr. Mime and a Mime Jr.
I can be Mime Jr.
Are you Mime Jr.?
Yeah. So we launched the mentorship 2 applications last week. Got utterly clowned for a little while, and it ended up being way, way fiery, more than we anticipated. But at the end of the day, we're excited to just help the people that signed up and to help them grow their business. And that's really all we have to say. We'll let the internet do their thing. Any last words for you, Ricky?
No, it's beautiful, man. I think you would use the phrase "went over like a lead balloon," and I thought that was correct. It absolutely went over like a lead balloon. I liked getting roasted for the design here because I did spend almost 7 minutes putting this together, thinking a few people would see this post. So
yeah, instead of like 50 million.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it was, definitely a very interesting thing. But yeah, no, I guess the other thing I'll say is that obviously the folks that watch Midweek Machamps know we've been talking about this for 7 months. The applications are not closed yet, but we do have, I think, right at 20 legitimate applications. I don't expect all of them will follow through necessarily, but probably a good portion of them will. So if you're still thinking about it, if you're interested in it, application's still open. We'll review things in probably in about a week, and then later this month we expect to start working with these people, which we're super excited to do. We got a lot of fulfillment out of helping the folks in cohort 1, which is really the primary reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Cohort 2.
We had fun working with people to help them grow their business. That's why we're doing this.
It is. All right, let's move on to the actual hobby stuff, man. Let's start with Delta Rain.
Yes.
A lot of Rayquaza. This is going to be a very Rayquaza themed episode, actually.
Rayquaza. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
No,
Rayquaza content.
Don't say Rayquaza.
Rayquaza, very Rayquaza. Rayquaza. I like Rayquaza.
Everybody likes Rayquaza.
Yeah. So we know that it's called Delta Rain. I think this is Storm Esmeralda in Japanese. And I think there were a couple interesting things we wanted to talk about. Namely, it's been a little while since we had the sort of classic 2 Japanese sets to 1 English set. And there's like a really interesting gap between the Japanese release and the English release of this one. So we could definitely talk a bit about that. We can maybe speculate on the cards here. We're going to do a bunch more Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza talk soon. What are you guys' thoughts on Delta Rain?
It seems to me like it's going to go 30th anniversary Rayquaza set, and we're going to end this year booming. It's going to be just as hard to get product, probably more than holiday season last year, just because of how awesome these sets can shape up to be, how desirable they could be. Is there already a reveal on like the booster box art? I would love if it's like all green and inspired by Rayquaza. That'd be cool.
I haven't seen anything. Doesn't mean there has been. I don't think so. This logo is official, which I actually think this looks really cool.
Yeah, this is
personally, I think the name is cool. The logo's cool. Like, I don't know, subjective.
It's gonna sell well.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that. So yeah, what do you guys think? Obvious Mega Rayquaza. There's not. I guess we haven't. I'm trying to think. Like usually with the Mega SIRs, most, if not all, have had. Does the Gengar have the evolution line in it? In the art?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it does, unless it's like hidden in the sort of swirls. But a lot of the Mega SIRs have had the evolution line. This is obviously a mon that does not have like a line, so I don't know what to expect with the SIR. But I have to imagine they are going to cook. We had a Gawa on. I think this is a limited to 2000 promo, if I remember right.
Yeah. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Like making more limited cards, because it's not really common in Pokemon.
No, it's not.
It's new. You have there are like some home run contests, VMAXs, like the Charizard Rainbow VMAX in Japanese. I don't know. There's not a lot.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. For me, I think it's like it has to be a combination of like limited supply, but then also like high demand for it to go like, stratospheric. I don't know if Galate is gonna be able to really do that, but so just because it is exclusive, I'm thinking it might get as high as like 5K max for like a PSA 10 copy of this. That's my take here.
Well, you're going to a number.
Making a call. Players can run the sealed tournaments with their friends and family. Fill out an application. Oh, this reminds me a little bit of the Masaki cards from back in the day. You had to like mail something in, and you got mailed it back in like a sort of a, I don't know what the word is for it, but you kind of like a manila folder or whatever. It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, 2,000 applicants randomly selected those. Interesting.
It is. Yeah. How many people are going to apply? What are the odds?
I wonder how they came up with like this concept. and why?
I don't know. I mean, it's like we're saying, it's something they've done before, but it is rare. It is definitely unusual. Another one that's
1,000 in the current landscape of TCG is a very small number.
Extremely small. The Mew was 1,000.
Yeah.
Mew was it 1,051 or was it 1,500? I can't remember.
Oh wait.
Oh yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, that's right.
I think it was like 1,501 or something like that.
Yeah. 50.
I never owned
that. In the chat, it doesn't matter too much, but yeah, it was somewhere in the low thousands. Yeah, it's interesting. We've also got 1510, says someone in the chat. 1510. Okay, substantiated. Nice, smart chat. Another kind of callback maybe to the legend cards here with the 2-part trainer card. How do you guys feel about this one? Kind of interesting.
I love it. I think as they kind of resurrect these formats, it's going to do really good stuff. I mean, the point of a lot of these cards is for nostalgia experience. Yeah. So yeah. I love that they would do that.
Yeah, very cool. Definite callback. So yeah, they're going to chef. I think some people were calling like Tang. I think this was maybe guesses on what else. These are maybe the cards that had the evolution lines on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we think besides the obvious Rayquaza? Do we think, usually there's some sort of like a co-main event? Any hypothetical?
What I would love to see is we have this Rayquaza set, Storm Emeralda, I believe it's called Japanese.
Yeah.
And then I would love for another set to come out that also informs Delta Rain that is dedicated to Deoxys. And then we have just Rayquaza v Deoxys cards all throughout the entire Delta Rain set. I would just die for that.
That's a great call.
Wow, Deoxys doesn't get enough love. There are very few Deoxys cards that are like, it was number one really expensive, number two really really sought after. The only ones I can think of, like Crown Zenith had a couple.
They're all in Gen 3, really. I mean,
yeah,
that's really where they all are at. Like you got reverse hollows in Holland, and then you've got like the 4 EX forms. That's really
but
what
even the EXs aren't super like popular compared to the other silver border EXs from that era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I find personally that they are very collected. Like people buy Deoxys cards. Like I rarely keep, I've got actually a bunch of them right now, but inevitably at any given show, the right person finds your table and they're like, I am master setting all of Deoxys and I need that specific obscure card. Very, very interesting that it doesn't get as much love from the Pokemon Company. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel like don't you think it could headline its own set?
Deoxys?
Yeah,
I think it has a chance. I really do. I feel like it has a chance. There's also, I wouldn't mind if like the second half of the set was like a Gyarados inspired set. We haven't had a Gyarados inspired set since Crimson Invasion. And Crimson Invasion, then we also had Breakpoint and X and Y that had a lot of Gyarados love. But then the only Gyarados that we've really gotten since then is we've got a full art in Evo Skies, and we got a full art in Obsidian Flames, in SV Base, which is like, I don't know, it just leaves us lacking for the fact that they dedicated multiple sets to him in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, that's Level X in the chat. That's I'm going to take his word for that. Deoxys is the only set named after Pokemon. That's interesting.
That's a good point.
That I had never considered that, but that seems true.
But the main chase in that set is not Deoxys.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it's Rayquaza, right? And then you have 3 Deoxys EXs and a Rayquaza EX in that set. So give me Deoxys.
But we didn't even make a Deoxys Gold Star. EX Deoxys is Latios, and Rayquaza. It's crazy. They name it after Deoxys and don't even give it a Gold Star.
Yeah, no Deoxys Gold Star. Yeah, that is curious.
Someone said Arceus has a set. Implode.
Oh, true. Yeah, Platinum Arceus. That's true. That's true. Implode. Shout out on the ball knowledge.
Jake, Level X Jake got ball knower.
You can just throw out anything. We'll highlight it and get it wrong.
Well, that's a good call. Nice deep cut. Okay, let's move on just for the sake of time here. Less exciting piece of information, of news, but this one is definitely circulating. Woodbridge Card Show. I think this is in the East Coast. I want to say it was New.
Yeah, it's in Jersey, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like a recurring show every month or so.
Yeah.
So armed robbers steal 150K in Pokemon cards. It was a gunpoint robbery thing. I think it was a guy and his dad. I think the dad was to some degree injured. But yeah, this is kind of circulating and maybe a little bit of controversy or criticism around maybe the response from the Woodbridge Card Show. I didn't honestly watch any of the content related to it other than seeing it circulating. Obviously, like we have not talked about one. These happen all the time. We haven't really talked about one of these robberies in a while, but is there anything you guys want to kind of speak to on this?
I think for me, the biggest shocker was that it happened in broad daylight in front of other vendors. Usually it's an isolated situation where they pull up to your car or they follow you home or they follow you to a different parking lot or whatever it might be. Right. But when I heard that the other vendors were like there watching it happen, but obviously can't do anything because they're holding firearms. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's the most shocking thing because everyone says travel in groups. These people were traveling in groups, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that to me is just super scary as someone who, I mean, all of us do, but that goes to a lot of these shows. And this is a local show too. Not local to me, but I mean local to like not a
yeah. It's a long running, small scale local show. Right. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I guess like one other thing I'll say maybe is just coming from Front Row Card Show, showrunners probably need to think more than showrunners need to think more than they used to have to think about this, like security for attendees and vendors. And I think Front Row Card Show is a great example. And I think some of the kinds of precautions they take, they have security everywhere. They push every attendee out of the building right at 5 o'clock. And they're like strict about it. There's like people going up and down the aisles, like get out of the building, vendors only. It's very like vendors only and very, there's like security and police like all the way up into the parking lot. So I think there's, it seems almost excessive, but it's what's required to have a huge show and avoid one of these instances because people are obviously, like you said, Will, as brazen as being able to do this right in front of other people, like like their license plate, maybe their faces. I didn't see photos, but very brazen.
Scary stuff. I guess that my only piece here really is there definitely are ways to keep everybody safe. I mean, there's been high-end conventions for a long time. If you think like firearm shows and, I mean, there's industries that have been dealing with the fact that their merchandise is really valuable for many, many years. And I think, we just are going to continue to get better and better. Like obviously there's the travel in groups kind of piece, but there's also, for show organizers, the ideal is that you have, a place where vendors are exclusively moving, parking, unloading, that is all watched by your armed security service. So that, obviously vendor can choose to not go to those places and kind of utilize their free will to park where they want. But I think there has to be an option for people to always have security with them all the way up until they get in their car. Obviously, whatever happens after that is, you need to take extra precautions and make sure you're not being followed and try to be inconspicuous and all these kind of things. But it's crazy out there. I think the hardest part about this is that it's still so like insane to the standard non-collector person, the idea that people would get robbed for their Pokemon cards, that every time it happens, it gets all of this national media. And ironically, all that national media does is embolden other people to rob people. So it's tough. People have the idea to steal from others because they have been that sort of behavior has been reinforced and has been deemed successful. That's why they do it, and it needs to be unsuccessful before things are going to change.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, let's move on. Maybe with this one, maybe we don't go super deep yet because we are so much going to come back to this in our main topic. So I don't want to like, I don't know, like blow the punchline or whatever to sort of the whole episode. But we definitely wanted to talk a little bit about some of these high-end auctions. I mean, one that I thought was really fun is this Pop 14 Yanma that sold for 6 figures. Is pretty wild considering what the Pokemon is. And maybe Will, you can give me an opinion. I think this is one of the first things I have seen since getting back into the hobby where I went,
okay. Yeah. You wonder why we get like money laundering accusations and like fake sales and stuff. Honestly, I don't have much to say. I would never spend $100,000 on a Yanma respectfully, but I mean, Pop 14, like you said, there are some rich people out there who have way more money than me and have different decision-making processes than I do that might want to collect this, and only 14 sets can technically exist. Maybe less. I don't know if that's the lowest pop in Neo Discovery, but it might be.
Yeah, I mean that's really the story here, is that this card is collected to be part of some sort of Neo master set. I can't see exactly which Neo set is this from.
Discovery.
This is Discovery. Okay, so again, we're talking about first edition Neo sets that are historically extremely hard to grade, and there's only a handful of people who can have, you know, an entire Gen 2 holo set put together. So I'm not too surprised, because we're also going to see the same kind of thing. I'm pretty sure like a Chansey from first edition Shadowless PSA 10, like in a 14 cert, just got put up on auction. I'm sure that's going to go for crazy numbers because it's just so hard to grade, even, you know, way lower pop than the Charizard, I'm pretty sure. So this is going to happen. People want to complete their sets.
Indeed. Yeah. And maybe any quick thoughts on the Ray? I think it's so clear that we're going to come back to this. So again, maybe we don't do a 10-minute discussion here because we're about to get into it in 20 minutes probably. But very interesting, right? For folks that aren't aware, a Pop 47 Rayquaza Gold Star up at auction. Is this, maybe Will educate us, what is the last high public sale on this card?
I can't even give you the answer off the top of my head. I've looked it up, but I don't remember. It's been years. Nowhere close to what this number is right now.
Last public was, it was like 2024, wasn't it? Something like that.
Is it?
34K says Level X. So that's probably sometime in 2024 is my guess.
Yeah. It's been a long time. This card has been moving privately pretty frequently, actually, for a Pop 47 card. But this is the first time where it's going to actually not be a guessing game on what the true value is.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I feel like I saw maybe some Instagram posts when I was essentially like researching this and prepping this, that there were sales maybe around 200,000. Like people were posting about private sales around 200,000, like within the last year. Does that sound right?
The end of last year, so the end of 2025, it was doing around 300. Before that, I was doing around 150, I want to say, like around the summertime. Yeah. But it jumped to like 300 towards the end of the year, and then it jumped to 600 at the beginning of this year. And the problem thing with Rayquaza, this specific card, is it's a low pop PSA 10, but the quality of the card really matters on the price. Yeah. So this card is it's already at like 600 something thousand after the buyer's premium here. There was a copy readily available on the market literally like 3 weeks ago. It was a really cooked 2 cert. It probably would have re-rated 7.
Wow.
Asking 650 OBO, and it didn't sell. So
wow.
There's a huge range on, like, based on the quality of the copy and whether it's a North American print or a European print. There's just a bunch of other factors too.
Well, shout out to the high-end collectors for not just buying the grade in that situation. Like, honestly, like if you have the money to get the good stuff, then actually buy clean cards, you know?
Yeah, but that's why this one being on auction is so interesting though, because the variance in the prices privately before this was just anyone's guess. You don't know if there's someone out there who would be willing to pay 30% more, 50% more, or 2x, kind of like the Black Label, the Black Diamond Luigi, for example. But yeah, I mean, this copy, I haven't actually taken a look at the back, but I think it's clean. It's definitely way cleaner than the 2 cert that I'm talking about. That got no bites at 650. But yeah, I don't know what this one's gonna do. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the the offer from alts to the person who decided to consign it must have been really juicy, you know, to get them to do it. Some guaranteed moolah up front is my guess.
Yeah. Probably.
But then there's also the piece of like, you know, you never know what can happen. Maybe because it's been so long, they're like, you know what? Maybe if I can pull enough eyeballs on it, then it can go for even larger than what it would go privately, just because it has been so long. But yeah, I mean, it's for science for all of us. We're all going to be grateful. And what's most likely going to happen here is it's going to go for a huge number. People are going to realize once again that gold stars are the cream of the crop, and all the gold stars are going to get pulled up.
Yeah.
John's asking, is all this money coming from crypto? Not all of it.
Not anymore. Crypto's been in the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this money. I mean, there's rich people out there.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. There's a lot of millionaires in the United States and beyond.
All right, so we're going to say more on this for sure. I think one other thing, Will, you confirmed with somebody who you felt was really knowledgeable on the matter that this is not a Euro print.
No. Yeah, because I think they've adjusted the saturation or the contrast on the scan,
so it looks like it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean I don't think that's an intentional, like them intentionally trying to sell it as a Euro print. Yeah. I think it's just to make it look nicer. That's all.
Yeah. What's the telltale sign? Like, obviously it seems like it requires some level of like knowledge. It's not super obvious, but what is the main thing that differentiates?
There's two that I know of. One is the little star on the rarity symbol, the shining gold star at the bottom right of the card. You know how rare is a gold star? I don't know. Yeah, that little star right there next to the card number. The spacing on that will be different on a Euro print. And then the second tell, more subjective, is less subjective, is that the Rayquaza itself will be grayer on a North American print, and it'll be a darker color black ink used on a Euro print. And so it's more desirable because it just looks better.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, someone in the chat, Pocket Pals Hub, also confirming the set symbol centering. So the position of the set symbol relative to that star next to it. That's.
Oh, really sorry. Yeah, it's a set symbol. Sorry. Yeah.
The set symbol rather than the star itself.
Right. But it's comparing it to where the star is. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Okay. And Euro is a shorter print run and therefore more valuable, more rare.
I don't know for sure about the print run. I'm assuming so, but it's a lower pop overall. Yeah, for PSA 10 specifically and other grades. But I'm pretty sure it's a lower print run too.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. All right, guys. I think that wraps up the tall grass. So let's exit the tall grass and go into a couple of our sponsored segments from some friendlies here. We're going to stay Rayquaza themed for the next couple segments here. So Jake, let's do a payday or false swipe.
Payday or false swipe, guys. We are looking at two different Rayquaza chases, specifically Mega Rayquaza, because we got that new set coming out soon. So we're looking at X and Y era. This is Mega Rayquaza from Roaring Skies versus Shiny Mega Rayquaza from Ancient Origins, and how these two have performed, their relative value in comparison to each other. An interesting fact here that Will reminded us of is that Ancient Origins Ray, which is the purple line, is a much more expensive single raw card, but is technically a cheaper PSA 10.
Yep.
Most likely because it is much higher population, easier to grade.
Yeah, almost more than a 2x difference, I think. So we're talking like 10 versus 20 something kind of numbers here on the 10s, but 3 times more expensive, roughly 3 on the raw copy for Ancient Origins. It's interesting.
Yeah, I personally like the Roaring Skies card a little bit more. I think it's just slightly less busy.
Yeah,
and so I'm a big fan of it. But I have been offered PSA 10 copies of this card before, before it was worth 20K, and almost all the copies I've seen are just cooked in the back. Like probably wouldn't get modern 10s. Like a new search of that Roaring Skies Ray,
yeah,
a clean back would probably do some pretty serious numbers right now.
Yeah, I've only seen a handful of like newer cert Roaring Skies rays. I could probably name my like count them on my fingers how many copies I've seen.
Yeah,
obviously there's probably more out there, but on the Roaring, I think I want to say Roaring Skies is pop 100 or 200 maybe, and then the Ancient Origins is like a couple hundred, something like that. So they're not out there. Like the Roaring Skies ones aren't out there. They're not that common.
Yeah, another irony here is that I wasn't exactly around at this time and consuming sealed products in 2015 and 16, but I am pretty sure that Roaring Skies is also a much more heavily printed set. It received like late reprints because the Mega Ray, the standard one with the Emerald Break move set, was a very like meta friendly card to have in your deck. That's one of the reasons why it got a reprint in Celebrations in 2021. And so, yeah, again, lots more Roaring Skies out there. The box for Ancient Origins is more expensive. And yet because the difference in their grade ability is why you see this, this price difference. I think a kind of a good analogy for this Mega Rayquaza from Roaring Skies in one of our modern sets is the Magikarp from Paldea. The Magikarp from Paldea is like what, a $300 or $400 card raw, but like a 5K card and a 10. Yeah. Just basically because the word is out about the fact that it's basically impossible to grade. The gem rate is so low that even if you have a quote near mint copy, you're not going to get that, premium value on the single because no one really believes your card's going to grade a 10.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I feel like it's always been that way with it's interesting to see the word is out. I remember that being talked about like a couple of years ago when it had just come out. And I want to say at the time it was something like $100 raw card and $1,000 PSA 10. So it's kind of always been a roughly 10x premium over the raw price as everything, as the whole set's moved up. The box price of Paldea is probably 5x what it was in late 2024. Yeah, I think it's the same for those cards. So yeah, anyway, it's kind of interesting how it tracks. And yeah, these must be brutal. This Roaring Skies especially must be a brutal.
Level X, you're doing some good research for us. So Pop 116 versus 821 or so. Level X, do us a quick favor and tell us also just the total graded population in general, so we can kind of understand gem rate here. My guess is it's 116, but also just a terrible gem rate for this.
Yeah. Jake in the chat, that would be heroic. Thank you. Cool. So shout out Double Hollow. As always, this is a sponsored segment. Me and Jake are part of the team that helps give Double Hollow feedback. We're doing a lot around the like vendor hub type tools. So if you're a vendor and you haven't tried it out, it's worth a shot. We've been getting good feedback on it and it's only getting better. So it's sort of
and the link in the description here, guys, is a direct link to try out the premium tools, and they have I believe it's still active, is a 3-day free trial. So anytime you sign up for those, you can get a free trial, check out all these tools for free.
Indeed. Okay. So we'll stay on this theme as we always do. Our next segment here is to Pikachu's the better set.
Yes. Shout out Collector. We're going to Pikachu's the better set. So we've just compared the Rayquazas. Now let's compare the entire sets, specifically the main chases. What did you find first, Ricky? Top 10, top 20 chases?
I went with top 20 chases here. So let's start with the value and then look sort of subjectively at the arts. The value of the top 20, it was cheaper than I was anticipating. These sets, I think, are 2015-ish. So, they're reasonably old at this point. Oh, there we go, Level X. So Ancient Ray, 5430 graded, 15% gem rate. Roaring Skies, 4260, 2.7%.
That's brutal.
So very similar total number graded, and 7 times roughly harder to grade the Roaring Skies in a 10. Jeez. Wow. Thank you, Jake, Level X. Shout out that guy. Go give those guys a follow. They're super, super sharp. Okay, so back to this. So 2000, let's call it 2,900 for the approximate market value of near mint raw for the top 20 chases in Ancient Origins. For Roaring Skies, less than half that at just 1,300 for the top 20 chases.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the cards and see how we feel about them. This is Roaring Skies top 20 chases here. So we can see the value wise, it goes from about 400 for that Ray down to about $20 for a Versus Seeker. What do you think of sort of maybe let's look at the top 10 or so at a time here.
How many of these are Rayquazas? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Another
7.
One yeah.
7 of the top 20 are Rayquaza cards. Every single Ray in this set is a top 20.
6. I think it's 6. You might have counted a Hydreigon or something, unless I'm.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I think it's 6. But yeah, so say 33% or something roughly. Rayquazas. So what do we think of these cards? I mean, like, I really like this full art. I think it's so much less busy than the megas.
Yeah, this full art is an actual grail. I have owned a PSA 10 copy of this card, and I highly regret selling it. It is an absolute grail. One of my favorite Rayquaza, probably my favorite full art from X and Y, all things considered. In person, beautiful blue background, deep texturing, crazy hard gem right here. I think we're like top 35 on this full art Rayquaza. It's just a nasty card.
That's crazy. I think for me, I like the Rayquazas in Roaring Skies more. I actually like the Mega here more than the Ancient Origins one. And obviously like that full art 104 right there. I agree. Just a stunning card. But I think the better set overall for me is Ancient Origins, just because there's more balance to it. There's more diversity on it. I think the 3 gold cards really obviously carried the set, but even the other megas, I think they look beautiful. And that Lugia is a big chase too.
I love this.
Yeah, Lugia is like a 5K card. The Giratina is over 2K.
Yeah,
you got reverse Gyarados here is like $1,500.
That reverse Gyarados is really expensive too, but it's
that's like a 2K, 2.5, somewhere around there. There's also there's a Mega Sceptile in here, isn't there?
There
those
is right here. Yeah.
Yep. Mega Sceptile does over a K. So does Mega T-Tar. So like lots of really, really good chases here. And like we've just discovered, not terrible gem rate on these cards, especially the full art ones.
This Machamp's pretty tough. Yeah. I actually really like these gold ones in person. So I think I'm probably the if I'm not mistaken, the contrarian opinion. I think you both said you liked this Mega Ray more as the cleaner art. I really like how the gold looks in person. These are like the more distinctive. There's like a clear identity. Like when I see these cards, I really know what set I'm looking at. And I agree with you, Will. I think the sort of like overall depth here, a lot of cool cards. This Ampharos is great, right? Like you got cool cards all the way down into the 18th or whatever, 15th, 16th card in the top 20 value wise. So yeah. Any other commentary on comparing these Pikachu'sing the better set? I guess if we're Pikachu'sing the better set, is it Ancient Origins overall? Though it's very subjective.
No, Ancient for sure, and then like that kind of plays out in the box price. Ancient Origins, I think, is like almost 7K for a box.
Yeah, something like that.
Whereas Roaring Skies is like 4K.
I'll also say the Roaring Skies, the arts they use for the Latios, both the Latioses, I'm not a big fan of them.
Yeah, they're kind of chunky, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and in weird positions. I don't know, especially the regular EX. I don't know why they did that with it, but yeah, it's a shame.
Good point.
Someone in the chat, this Tien Sino, said they graded the Mega Rayquaza Ancient Origins and got the 10 last Wednesday. So maybe the 821st. So congratulations.
Dude, yeah. Congrats.
Amazing find. Incredible. And then Cole World with a question about the Gold Star Mew PSA 10. I think that goes right in with some of the other high-end cards, which is we're about to transition right into that topic now. So maybe we'll just hold on to that and we'll sort of talk around that Mew and the other similar high-end comps and auctions. Anything else, guys? Shout out Collector. They've been really good to us, to this pod, and to each of our channels. Like very easy to work with. Obviously, great app. Anything else, guys?
Nope. Shout out Collector. Download the app. Use it now.
All right. Well, in the spirit of spending as much time as we can in the main topic, and maybe even though we got off to kind of a slow start with talking about all of our PC pickups, maybe a slightly shorter stream today. We'll see if we stick to it. Let's move on. Instead of doing a fourth segment here, let's move on and talk about our main topic, guys. It's sort of really the focus is high end, and we've got the right guy here to talk about it. Maybe we each give our a quick spiel on our level of comfort and familiarity with and like history with high end as sort of an introduction to this, and then we'll dabble a little bit of international into this. Both of you guys have done international shows. Jake, I think just Canada, so not still North America, technically international, but not as international as Will, having just come back from Singapore and seen what's going on sort of in the general like broader Chinese and Asian market there. I think sounded really fascinating. So we saved as much of that conversation as we could for this. So that's what we're going to talk about probably for the next like solid, who knows, 30, 45 minutes before we get to Q&A. Should we do a quick intro for, whatever, like the 30 to 60 second spiel on our own individual level of familiarity or comfort or experience in high end before we get into the conversation, just to set the frame?
Yeah, I think that would be good. Let's have Will go last on that. He's been doing bigger cards for longer than all of us for sure. Maybe you go first, Ricky.
Yeah, I can go first because I think I'm the most fledgling on this. So I have only very recently started dabbling in low 5-figure cards. Really got into my first 5-figure card like 5 weeks ago. So that's, I pay attention to these auctions so that I can kind of have a sense of what the 8s and the 9s might do when the 10s comp. That's sort of the level I've played in. I'm quite comfortable in the low to mid 4-figure cards range, but the 5 and certainly 6-figure cards range is like, it's almost a completely foreign world to me. So I'm absolutely not an authority on this topic, but I am sort of gradually getting my feet wet on the 5-figure cards.
I am maybe just slightly further down the road than that. I think probably for the last 3 or 4 months, I've done deals that included 5-figure cards every show. And I think another thing that has been helpful for me when it comes to the 5-figure cards, and then also, Will also deals in the 6-figure cards. But something that's helped me is I started collecting some of like these low pop chases kind of on a whim, just for personal collection reasons, years ago when they were much cheaper. And so I've just kind of like held on to them and seen what they've been able to do, and been really kind of curious to see how people are over time willing to spend way more than I was at that time for the same exact card. And it's a good lesson in like price memory and entry point. And, when enough eyeballs get onto a certain thing, that it can just absolutely like explode in price in a short period of time. And then also just like, and how those cards are bought and sold. A lot of it comes down to your network and finding the right collector, the right people who are in the position to make a play on that card, whether because they are well off or because they are someone who's been in the hobby and they have enough kind of ammunition in their collection to trade into some of these bigger grails. Kind of tends to be what it is, in my experience. What about you, Will?
I think I've always been known as the poncho guy, and that has, and in the past has always been considered high end. But I think ponchos are in a different sphere versus all the other stuff that goes around in the market right now. Like we just saw the Yanma, the gold stars, all the gold stars, stuff like that. That's not the same sphere as ponchos, even though the prices might reflect similar numbers. Mm-hmm. So I always did ponchos from the start. I've been vending for like 4 or 5 years now, but ponchos were because they were always super liquid, super popular, and just really easy to move. You could take smaller margins, but just move them faster than your typical card, typically. Yeah. And eventually, kind of like you, where you were collecting low pop stuff and the numbers just crawled up to where you were now thrust into that sphere. I was thrust into the sphere of bigger numbers just because I did ponchos and they multiplied significantly. Nowadays, I would say in the last 6 months, I started getting into lower pop, higher value grails, even though they're similar, because the Mario does like 30,000 right now. It's not a small number, right? When I first started moving them, they were like 3,000 or 4,000, but there are gold stars that are like higher than that or lower than that, you know. So I wasn't really necessarily focused on the number, but I started getting into the stuff kind of like gold stars, EX silver borders, things people would consider vintage grails, I guess, in the last 6 months maybe. And there was just you touched on it, Jacob, about your network of finding the individuals who will buy the card, but there's also a network on how to get information about specific cards, because so many cards are private sales now. Like we just mentioned, the last Rayquaza Gold Star sale was like 2 years ago. So having a network and being able to get that information is also really important too.
Yeah, it's frequent for me that like when I'm thinking about buying a bigger card like this, I mean, I don't know, I showed it on the Fnatic stream. I picked up a PSA, not a PSA, a CGC Pristine first edition Sabrina's Gengar Hollow this past weekend because I felt like I had a really good chance at crossing into a 10. And before I pulled the trigger, I was talking to people through IG about like, okay, realistically, what is a PSA 10 move for? I know the last public comp wasn't too long ago, but it was like a really beat up 2 cert that got auctioned. And so I'm thinking like, if I do land the grade and I'm looking at like a 16 or 17 cert Sabrina's Gengar Hollow first edition, like what's kind of the demand for that before I made the decision to pull the trigger to see if I would have enough potential margin to even take that risk on that card. And that information is not just out there on the internet and it's worth thousands of dollars potentially, depending on the situation that you're in. And so having the network of people who, oh yeah, like I know this person, they just moved one privately for this much in cash / trade. And that can be really informative for people trying to make these decisions.
I mean, literally going back to the example where you talked about Dawson in Atlanta, you said we bought it and flipped it like right across the table. Like just that information was worth 20,000, you said, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah. I had a small example of this, Jake, that you helped me with when I my first and second 5-figure cards ever were part of the same transaction, and I decided to sort of speculate on a Dark Explorer's Gardevoir PSA 10, which does not sell very often. It's pretty low pop card, and the most recent public sale, someone had accepted a fairly low best offer. So it had like a 17K previous sale and then like a 10K very recent sale. And you said, oh man, those are tough cards, but I know so-and-so guys over here, they're right down this way, who definitely sold one private sale. I'll walk over with you in a little bit and we can ask them what it sold for. And it's exactly what we did. And the information they gave us, it was, 30%, 40% over the public comp. And it was several months. It was like in March, they had sold it for $3,000-$4,000 more than that recent public comp. So that information was like super, super valuable for me and understanding what I could like push for versus what I could settle for. And that required knowledge. Like you knew a guy, I knew a guy who knew a guy kind of thing. So yeah, that was such an interesting, like immediately getting into 5-figure cards. Cause my first 5-figure card was a Pikachu Munch, which is much more transparent. It's transacted much more often. So it's fairly easy to understand what that card is probably worth. But when you get into like, it was like a pop 23 or something, black and white era, half art like that, I was like guessing basically. And so it was really helpful information. So perfect example of that.
There's 2 kind of aspects I'd really like to touch on when it comes to high end. Like right now we're talking about like the information for sourcing and selling. And I want to ask Will another question on this because he's been in it for a number of years. But then there's also like the trajectory that I want to talk about. Like what is the future for some of these bigger cards? Are we just getting started? A lot of them have 10x'd in the last couple of years. Like, is it going to keep going, et cetera? So, but on the information side, what we're talking about is like, secondary market hearsay, essentially. And hopefully you can trust your sources. And for the most part, we're talking about people who have a reason to be transparent if, their buyer or their seller has granted them that information to be, willing to share, not necessarily be secret, et cetera. but it's probably much more like, you know, a market that existed for high-end collectibles in years past, long before there were apps and, you know, well agreed upon aggregated sales data, metrics, these kinds of things. You know, Will, you have experience in Pokemon, but also in sports, and sports for longer than Pokemon, if I remember right.
Yeah, but
Like,
I'm not as active in sports as I am Pokemon.
sure, sure, but what I'm getting at is, like, sports cards have been trading for 4, 5, 6, 7 figures for many, many years from now.
Yep.
And long before there were all of these apps that people could, you know, source very specific information on very exact copies of cards with.
Yep.
So this must have been how people were doing these deals in the past, was just through a network of people who owned these items and kind of trying to make best estimates on what they would be worth in the secondary market.
Yeah, literally. Like a lot of it is a game or a battle of information.
Yes. Who knows more?
Yeah, and you have to, like you said, you have to trust your sources. It sounds kind of weird to say like we're reporting on something, or this is like some sort of profession beyond selling cardboard, but I think like there's so much bad information out there, and so many games of telephone that happen. Like I literally witnessed firsthand one of my buddies selling a card, and he told me the number directly from him, and I heard like 2 days later down the line from somebody else that he'd sold it for a totally different number than what it was actually sold for. You know, and that happens all the time. So it's a dangerous game for sure, because there are people with ulterior motives. There are people who will purposely mislead you or other people with this information. And honestly, I think that's why it's fun. Because I think that's the part that gets my gears turning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's part gamble, but it's also like it's that unknown hustle that you have to try to kind of figure out, right? And that's one of the reasons, like, why I have been spending much more time in the high-end cards, and it's because it's so much more engaging for me. I spent literally an hour of my time at Phoenix Front Row Card Show poring over this Gengar and looking at it in every possible light, like, okay, does it really have a chance to cross? Because I feel like if I take that risk, I buy the card and we take the risk and it pays off, that we can make many thousands of dollars on it. Or alternatively, I can keep it and I've got a really cool 16 or 17 cert Gengar in my PC, which also sounds really cool. So there's so many more things up in the air from the information standpoint. And there's a really good question that I think would be valuable to kind of touch on right now, if that's okay with you guys. Tortrick is concerned that, like, okay, if we're talking about public versus private comps, do we just have to just trust the vendors and hopefully it goes well? And the answer is, to, like, if you are trying to get that copy, then probably yes. If you're trying to get that copy of the card, then probably yes. And I personally have bought big cards based on nothing but what the vendor told me and my gut feeling, and, you know, what I maybe knew about other cards that are of a similar class or whatever it may be, that, you know, ended up kind of pushing me in the direction of actually pulling the trigger on the card. What about you guys? Have you kind of done the same thing?
Yeah, you touched on me being into sports cards. That's something I learned early on how to evaluate or appraise a card, because there's so many 1-of-1s, there are so many cards out of 5, so many cards out of 10 that they don't comp very often.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, using a comp from a card of a similar stature from a similar set, or even the same set, and then extrapolating that data and applying it to whatever card you're trying to buy or sell, I think that's super important, a really good skill to have. And that's something I learned really early on, because again, in sports cards, you do it all the time. Like if I have a red parallel and I'm trying to comp it, it's got 5 copies in the entire world. It's never sold publicly. It may not have even been sold privately ever, but you can compare it to what the gold out of 10 did. You can compare it to what the 1-of-1 did. And then, like I said, extract a number from that. I think that the sooner you learn that skill, the better you'll be at, doing whatever we do.
Yep. Exactly right. Exactly right. Okay. So that's kind of part of the information and the calculus going into getting involved in the high-end cards. Let's talk about the market for them and the trend. And this is something that I've actually, and Will, maybe you don't know this, I've been kind of hammering home the last few sessions that, programs that we've done here on Midweek Machamps about how for the best of the best, top chases from higher end sets with low populations, like these cards still have a lot of room to grow. And it's partly because they're so awesome and rare and exclusive, but it's even more than that, is that there are more and more people getting involved who are willing to, have their capital tied up at that level for these types of higher end items. And they have to compete with each other to a certain degree for a very finite number of cards. So kind of what's your take right now, Will, on what the best of the best cards are going to be doing and their values going forward?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, but I'm also aware that if the market as a whole comes down, then those cards, even the high end stuff, will potentially come down. That's just, I think there's less speculation if the market's going down, right? Less people willing to take big risks. But yeah, I think we're seeing it right now where the low end has come down like a little bit. There's been a pullback of like maybe 10-20% on modern alt-art PSA 10s or modern chases and stuff like that. But the high end or low pop stuff are still setting records every single week. So yeah, I think you're seeing that in real time where the high end stuff is this still has room to grow.
Yeah. What do you think? What kind of cards are in that category of, because right now we have basically two cards that are cards that you could pull from packs that have the potential to, or even comps at 7 figures, right? We've got Gold Star Ray that has comps, certain copies of it in 7-figure range. And then we also have no rarity Japanese Charizard that does 7 figures.
Yeah. I wouldn't even count the Rayquaza though, because you have to gem it. It's a pop 47. I don't know what the newest cert is, but I can't imagine any Gold Star Rayquaza being pulled right now getting a PSA 10, just based on what we've seen. I think Clover pulled one last year, and I think it graded a 7. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure PokeVault pulled one as well. And graded an 8.
So gemming that kind of card is almost impossible. That's why we haven't seen the pop move in so long. Someone can look up the data when the last 10 was graded, but yeah, I wouldn't even consider that like a card that's pullable. I know that's not the point of your argument, or your point, but
I'm basically just saying non trophy cards, things that aren't the Pikachu Illustrator. Like we're talking about, cards that are.
Yeah, that's why those cards are still have a lot of room to grow, because the pop isn't growing.
Right.
You're not getting more trophy cards from 98 or more illustrators. I mean, you might pop up one from a collection here and there, but they're not, readily available. And most people who have them are keeping them forever, or so they say, at least. But I believe it. So yeah, I think that's why.
So what are some other cards in your mind that have this opportunity to go to that? What cards today are not 6-figure cards that you really feel like could be 6-figure cards?
I think more Gold Stars are going to start catching up, especially the more desirable ones. Like we've already seen Pikachu go up exponentially. It's crazy what some of the Gold Stars are doing. Even though the least popular, like the legendary trio dogs, right? Those are the ones that are backdoored. They're by far the highest pop Gold Stars. They're already 5 figures or more. Those were like the ones that no one wanted to touch for a long time. Still kind of don't, but they're still really expensive. I don't know if they'll hit 6 figures, but I still think they have a lot of room to grow. And like you mentioned, trophy cards. I don't know. There's not a lot out there, to be honest. Snap cards are already seeing a pretty big boom. I know one privately just sold like this week for, I want to say it was over 100,000. I don't want to say the exact number. It's not for me to say, but it just hit 100. Like that's the new record high for that snap.
Here's the thing, though, Will, is like we just showed a picture of a Yanma that hit 6 figures. Like, if that can hit 6, I think there's a lot more candidates. I'm thinking like some Silver Border EXs, I think your Deoxys reverse Rayquaza. I think that has a very strong chance of being a six-figure card in the next few years.
I think it depends on how long you think the market moves upwards. If we're talking about a few years, then yeah, there are a lot of cards that can hit it. Like you said, a lot of the EX Silver borders, like Umbreon from Unseen Forces, just did like 60 or whatever it is.
Yep.
You're totally right on that point, but I don't know. It's hard for me to speculate on these numbers when I myself am not sure if the market can sustain that or absorb that much liquidity. So,
see, in my mind, it's less about like somebody going and buying those cards outright for cash, you know, frequently. It only has to be like, you know, one or two people that like, you know, pick one up in like the 70, 80K range. And then all of a sudden the private sales for those include like huge trade deals that get up into the 90s and then the six figures. And then all of a sudden, no one who has the card is willing to move off of it for less than 100. And then if you want one, you have to pay that amount. Like, I really feel like there's a lot of cards that are entering that category. Like I'm thinking about even something from earlier, like more frequent, more recent sets, like the Gengar from Phantom Forces. It just did like 30K, right? Something like that.
It's more than that. I want to say it's like 40.
Okay, so and then you know Silver Dialga, not to pump my own bags, but I believe that that's a 50K card right now. And there's others. I really feel like those can continue to spin up into that six-figure range because here's the thing: is more people are getting involved, and more people have like four-figure cards that they could trade in, and you know, and maximize that value with those things than ever before.
Yeah, and like I was gonna say, like I think Expedition has a chance to do that too. A lot of the Expedition cards are like $50,000 for random Pokemon. I think like Ampharos does something close to that. There's another recent one. I don't know. Like Mew just did 150,000, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're gonna go like that, I think the difference is whether I think they're worth that or whether they're gonna get to that number or not. I don't know if they're worth that for me personally, but I'm also not the one spending money on that kind of stuff. So it's a bit hard to distinguish.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you also have price memory, you know, 4 or 5 years into it, you're buying poncho boxes already for 10 times what you used to be buying them for.
Don't remind me. I wish I just kept them all. Not done anything the last 2 years and been sitting hiding pretty.
I know.
Yeah,
Call of Legends Ray, Call of Legends Lugia.
He's already been there. Lugia, I don't know. Amar's in here. Pocket Pals Hub, he's in here. I don't know what they sold theirs. Or I don't know if they sold theirs yet, but I don't know what Lugia does privately right now. But that could be one if it isn't already. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of cards out there. A lot.
I've been hearing a lot of the rumbling around Call of Legends, and I don't know enough to know if it's people trying to make fetch happen or if it's the real deal.
They're pop 20. The PSA 10s. So okay. I believe it. Yeah, 20 copies for all of them. I think Rayquaza might be the lowest pop, and one guy owned 3 at one point. So, and I think it was like a pop 19 or I don't know. Someone can check this, but yeah, some guy owned 3 copies last year. And so like, and it wasn't like he's not trying to pump his bags or anything. He just owned 3 copies because he liked the card, you know? And so to pry it off a guy, probably 3 different copies off him, let alone one, you know, might be a little bit tough.
Fetch bin happening.
There's Amar.
Just checking. Just like I said, I admittedly not a lane that I know. I've had some of those Call Legend cards in like mid grades, so the 10s is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I had 2 Ho-Oh 10s last year and a Deoxys 10. Had the chance to buy the Lugia. Didn't believe in it like it is going now, but those cards hurt.
What about this active auction for our this is a relatively new cert, it's a pretty modern cert. I was looking at the card a bit ago. I mean, it's pretty good. It's not the most incredible 10 of all time, but it is a pretty good copy, and it is a 10, and it is a public auction that has 3 days left. That's over $100,000. What are our thoughts on this one?
This card is such a grail for me. I absolutely love this card.
I think this one definitely has a new cert premium. I want to say Goldstar Mew was trading privately at like 100 before this auction popped up.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously it's already over. This is like 130 after the buyer's premium. where it ends up, I don't know. But I will say a lot of these gold stars and a lot of the higher end stuff, auctions that have been selling over 6 figures, some of them haven't been paid for legitimately, I want to say. So whether this number is real or not, I don't know, but it's going to set the record from you.
Yeah. Maybe to slightly shift off of like the specific cards, Will, you mentioned over the last 6 months pivoting essentially into like a completely high-end focus, like barely selling singles at all anymore over the past 6 months. I guess I'm kind of curious why and how you came to that decision. And then maybe the secondary question after that is what the process has been like, what have been the toughest learnings, like how might one consider that transition?
I think I moved into it because I already had the knowledge. I was getting all these numbers and all this information from people I was just talking to casually, and being able to utilize that information, I guess, take advantage of it and make a profit on it seemed really appealing to me. But I don't think it was specifically about moving into high-end stuff. It was more about moving into cards with higher ceilings and higher payoff. When you work with singles, like the highest payoff you can get is grading it and gemming it, right? But that process takes, at this point, it's not possible. But prior to like PSA shutting down, it was still taking 6 months to finally see those numbers or that profit come in, right? That just wasn't fast enough, in my opinion, for like I wasn't satisfied with that kind of growth. I wanted to take it into my own hands and take the reins and drive it myself. And I think to grow your inventory, there's 2 ways to scale volume. You either scale total quantity of cards sold or you scale the value per card. And as a guy that runs the shows by myself, I have a team, but they're all like editors and social media dudes and stuff like that. But at the show, I primarily go by myself with my camera guy and maybe have a guy helping me. It's really hard to price, a bunch of singles every single time someone comes up and wants to sell them. Some of those deals will take hours. I mean, you guys both know.
Yeah.
Especially if someone brings an entire binder, right? You got to comp the entire binder out. I know there's apps nowadays that make it super, super fast, but 6 months ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. So I was like, I think for what made more sense to me was scaling the value per card. And you for sure can do both, but most people focus more on one side of that equation. So I wanted to focus on cards with a higher payoff. In my opinion, that's more sustainable too, because we can't go to shows every single week for the rest of our lives. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's like, I know for last year, I was relieved that the show schedule ended around the time it came in like November, just so we can take a break and, rest easy and breathe a little bit. So I think moving these higher end cards, you don't necessarily have to go to shows to move them. Some of these cards, people know you own it and they'll come to you and try to buy it. And I think for the longer term future, building that network was more important to me. So yeah.
Well, I think a follow-up question here is, and everything you said, I totally understand and agree with. Let me play devil's advocate and push back here. Are you concerned about alienating a large portion of the hobby who's just not into cards that are 4 figures and above?
Yeah, I think my audience has kind of scaled with me though, because they're so used to the big numbers now. I feel I don't want to necessarily speak for them, but I haven't gotten any comments negatively saying, "Oh, you're only doing the high end stuff." I think people come and watch my content for that kind of stuff, because not everyone can make content doing 5-figure, 6 sometimes figure deals. But like I said, I think they're kind of used to it because I've been doing ponchos for a long time and now they're 5 figures. It's not my fault that they're 5 figures, but I think people kind of naturally accepted that the numbers are going to be higher, right? Even if you go to a show, I like to say or give this analogy that when I first started vending, you have $200, you can buy a PSA 10 Charizard Chase. Nowadays, you walk into a show, you get a $200 like Scoville in PSA 10 or something, maybe not even that. So I think that the audience is kind of used to it. It was a gradual increase. It wasn't just like one day I flipped the switch and decided to do it. But as far as alienating people at shows, that's what I'm more concerned about. And so I mentioned this to you guys this last time. I bring lower end slabs on purpose, not because I'm going to try to make a big margin on them or make a good profit on them, but more so people who come around and don't have the big budgets to spend on cards like 4 or 5 figures have something to buy or have something to look at. And I still get the comments of people saying like, "Hey, I can't even look at your showcase because everything's too expensive." I get those here and there, but I try to at least have some sort of variety still.
Yeah. The hardest part for me, man, is like, I'm going to sound like cliche here, but I like really like Pokemon cards. And so when people show me a cool binder full of singles, I'm just like, yeah, I want all of these. You're trying to sell all these? I want all of them.
I still get that feeling all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a guy dropped a stack of singles on my table this past weekend, and it was like e-readers and silver border EXs and Masakis and this stuff. And I'm just like, all of it. What's your price for every single one? I don't even know if I have a sales channel for it yet. I haven't even checked conditions. I want all of these.
Just because you never see them, they look so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the same thing. The 2 collections I bought, I spent $20,000 at Front Row on just singles. There was 1 slab and like 500 singles. I've spent the last 2 days just processing them, and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't quite regret it, but like I definitely bought these because I liked them, and I was like, there's cool stuff. And now I have like quadruples of a lot of singles. Like, I'm just like, oh, I guess every time I see this card, I just pick it up, and now I have 4 of them. Like, I don't need 4 of this like Primal Kyogre EX. Like 2 would have been good. Yeah. I have the same problem. Will, we've talked on this program a few times about both Jake and I have gradually moved up market, and some of the sort of maybe the way we've done that is to increase the floor that we're willing to work with. So I know for me, it used to be I was working with any value of card, and then I was like, okay, no cards under $10, no, so like $10 at a time. Now it's sort of no cards under $40 is roughly how I play, unless I can get a great deal on them and they're part of a collection buy I really want to participate in. Is that sort of how it happened for you, that you like moved the floor up, or was it more like, oh, I guess like, yeah, which was the chicken or the egg is maybe the question.
No, 1000%. Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. I used to, like, when I first started too, like when you're green, you want to learn the ropes and dive into every single thing. But I guess the more we scale, the harder it is to do that, especially with so many more people come to these shows as well, or even in the DMs or whatever it might be. So yeah, it started off doing every single card. Then I cut it off to like $20. Then I cut it off to like $50. I think $50 is kind of where I kind of sat there and thought, like, I wonder if I should still even consider lower end stuff if it's not part of a bigger collection. That $50 point was kind of where I cut off the singles too, because the singles take forever, right? Like, you got to check the condition on all of them. You got to add them into a list or whatever it is with the apps now. But it's just super time consuming, especially when you have to explain to someone why you can't take their card at near mint condition, and you feel bad because they feel bad, and that entire song and dance. So after around the $50 mark, I was kind of like, I'm just gonna stop doing singles. I don't think it's I don't think it's as beneficial as focusing on just slabs. Plus I don't have to bring as much inventory. I don't have to price as much inventory before the show. I don't have to, it's not as much man hours. And I know you guys have guys work on your team to do that, but I don't. So yeah, it was a gradual increase from that for sure.
Yeah. Cool.
One or two more, maybe just classic interview questions for you here, Will. Give us an example of one of the segments we usually do on this show is called a Clufumble, which is you make a play on a card and you just basically get egg on your face and get crushed by a comp, or I know that you have really well viewed videos out there of getting scammed by some guy who had a Charizard that was like reholdered or something in a fake way. But what's an example, maybe something like less overt, of you making a play on a big card that just didn't work out? I want to say it's kind of hard to do it in today's market. True. It's really hard for anyone to lose money right now. So I would say there are a bunch of times when I sent in the card for grading and they just don't turn out the way you thought it was. So I used to go to Japan a lot. And this is back before everyone went to Japan and bought cards. This is maybe like 3-4 years ago. I mean, there were still a lot of people doing it, but it's not like it is now. The landscape has totally changed. And I remember buying 2 Expedition Gengars. And the way Japan works, still to this day works, is they'll take a card that's in near mint condition, but it probably won't gem, and they'll list it for more than PSA 9 price, but a lot less than PSA 10 price. So if you're buying it, you're just gambling. But I saw these two Gengars. They both looked really nice. Japanese Expedition Gengar. I think they were like 300 or 400 at the time. Nothing crazy, but I mean, still a good chunk of money. Bought both cards thinking, yeah, they're for sure going to gem. I don't know why they're putting it, because a lot of Japanese nowadays, they grade it, right? And I was like, I don't know why these are here, but I think they're a steal. I'm gonna grab both. And this was, like I said, a couple years ago when $300-400 for a card raw, especially in Japanese, was pretty pricey. Anyway, I sent them both in. They both 7. I was like, man, I need to learn how to grade. And so I think I tell people all the time, it's not the case now because PSA shut down, but one of the best value propositions you have in this hobby is learning how to grade, learning how to grade or find poorly graded copies. Like, let's say your PSA 7 Lugia Quabblas. If you think it's a really clean copy, you can crack it out and get an 8, and that's probably a couple grand difference, right? Or even getting a 9, cracking out and gemming it. It doesn't always have to be for a PSA 10, but I think that's, again, grading is one of the best value propositions. Again, not now, but it used to be. So that was a lesson I learned the hard way, but it definitely was really valuable.
Love it. Love it. All right. And then the last one is, maybe what's a card right now that, because one of the things I see you do on your Insta is, like, when you feel strongly about a card or a classification of cards, you try to source a bunch of them and stack them up. So what do you, are you going to give out any free game tonight? What are you feeling strong about?
I don't do it anymore because people front run me, especially on lower pops.
I think we cut out slightly, right?
Yeah,
it's so annoying. So Rayquaza PSA 10. Oh,
well, yeah, we lost. You
cut out just a little bit. Repeat what you just said, man.
Okay, yeah, I think the card that I believe in right now is the Gold Star PSA 10 Rayquaza Japanese. I know it's out of the price range for a lot of people, but honestly, any grade I think right now is the go. Or honestly any Gold Star that's desirable. Like, maybe not get like Kyogre, Groudon, no offense to them, but like Latios, the Hoenn Trio, Torchic specifically, Charizard, any of those in any grade, I think, because they're so low pop. And people have been saying this for months. But because they're so low pop, I think that's what I've been focusing on. But I would say the higher grade, the better, obviously.
Love it, man. Love the game. Well, that's a good primer, I think, here on what's going on with the high-end market, things to think about. Any last comments on our main topic before we move on, guys? What do you think?
We kind of alluded to maybe discussing international briefly. Maybe we don't have to always speak, but like maybe I'm sure you and I have some questions. Like, I want to make sure we do that justice. It's sort of related to this. Like, Will just came back from big show in Singapore. Maybe, Will, you just give us a few minutes on sort of what you observed there. Maybe we'll have a couple follow-up questions before we move on.
Yeah, that was the craziest show in a not by necessarily numbers, but just the experience, because it's such a different experience versus what you get in the US or even in Canada. And I would say even Canada, Jake, you might corroborate this, but the Canada experience is different than the US as well, just because they don't have as many big shows and local shows either. But Singapore was amazing. But it was weird because it took me 4 hours to sell my first card, and I've never had that ever, especially not in today's like market. And it's because everybody at that show was selling. And I want to say it's because the Japanese market's come down a little bit. Buybacks aren't as strong as they used to be in Japan. The buyback is the price that shops in Japan will pay for a particular card. So every single day they have a huge chart of cards that they're looking for, and they'll buy back for either inventory or for their mystery bag games. And you can walk into the store, cash it in for that price they have on the sheet, and walk away with money. So that means basically instant liquidity, and you know how much you can get for it. Like, that's your floor. And I want to say that the Singaporean card community was selling a bunch of like Chinese promos, the gem pack promos, I don't know what other packs they come from, but all the like the Pikachus, the Pikachu Gengar, the Pikachu Psyduck, the Umbreon, like all that kind of stuff. They were selling them in droves. And so I spent the first 4 hours just buying. And it was nuts.
Are you open to sharing how much you spent at this show?
6 figures. 6 figures.
6 figures. 6 figures plus. So you brought home a bunch of cool cards, and how did you decide? Because again, one of the things we talked about offline was that, like, you know, there are certain cards, especially Chinese exclusives and others, that have really just like boomed, like tripled, quadrupled in the last, you know, 6 or 8 weeks, right? How did you decide how many of those you were willing to even take in? And do you feel good about all the decisions you made on what you bought over there?
During the show on Saturday, I was really nervous. I had super anxiety about spending that kind of money on cards that I don't typically buy, because in the States we usually buy a lot of English.
Yeah.
Out there, I was buying, I would say like 80% of it was Japanese, and then 20% of it was English. 20% of it was Chinese. Barely any English.
Wow.
And I'm definitely not used to that, and that's not the same as our market here. Like, selling Japanese cards here is usually a little bit tougher than selling English, especially when it gets to vintage.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about grails like Charizards, right, and stuff like that. So I would say even halfway through Saturday, like I said, I was really nervous about it. But I have channels that I sell cards, not just at card shows. And I figured, hey, I'm only here once, my first time here, and it's not this easy to buy in the States like it was at that show. So honestly, it was a huge risk. Ended up paying off because I've actually moved a lot of the inventory already. But yeah, it definitely was like new territory for me.
Very cool.
You obviously feel free to exercise whatever level of discretion you want to around this. You had alluded to some gotchas around traveling internationally to some of these, particularly maybe Southeast Asian countries, with regards to getting checked at the airport and paying customs and things like that. Can you talk a little bit, like, if anyone's considering that type of overseas vending, what are some of the things that they should really sort of keep an eye out for?
So the first thing everyone should know is when you're traveling international from the US specifically, I don't know how it is in other countries, but you can pretty much only come or leave with around 10,000 USD of cash. That's usually the threshold. You usually want to do a little bit less than that, just so, you know, they can't get you on some random condition, or, you know. So yeah, but if anyone's traveling for an international show, or even traveling internationally to buy something, 10,000 is usually the mark you want to be under. Second of all, a lot of countries have really strict customs. This is what you were alluding to. Singapore specifically, really strict. Indonesia strict. China strict. And Hong Kong is pretty strict. But Singapore specifically I get to because that's where we just came from. Actually, anytime there's an international show, I get a lot of DMs from a lot of people, whether it's Canada or this time in Singapore, of what I'm going to do with currency, what I'm going to do with taking payments, what I'm going to do with customs. In Singapore, again, in particular, customs was a big point of contention because everyone was saying Singapore is really, really tough on customs. The estimate was that, oh, actually, sorry, there's no estimate, but people were telling me that a lot of people from Hong Kong that fly to Singapore pretty often, because they're pretty close to each other, they get checked all the time and they get taxed every so often. I was telling you guys about Indonesia specifically. I heard a story from someone who lives in Indonesia, and they said around 20% of the people that arrive in Indonesia, whether you're from a different country or whether you're from Indonesia, like an Indonesian citizen, 20% of them are the ones that don't get checked. 80% of people get checked. And they go through, they don't even go through metal scanner. They just check your bag through an x-ray. And those customs agents are trained to check price charting and will tax you based on the total amount of slabs that they catch in your bag. And
the thing is price charting, and not card ladder, though, you know?
I mean, it's like 30 or 50% or something like that. It's still nuts.
Yeah.
So they said that you want to be really careful going to Indonesia. I'm not saying like don't go to Indonesia for a show, but just exercise proper precautions. China again is notoriously really popular or famous for checking a lot of people as well and taxing. So yeah, it's a totally different world out there. It was nerve-wracking trying to get through Singapore security. I walked at the very end. There's two guys at the glass door right after the baggage claim, and I'm just praying they don't just stand up and ask me to put it through the x-ray.
Jeez.
Oh, also another tip. If you're traveling international and going to these shows, take off all pricing stickers.
Yes.
You want to put it on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that before the Canada show, and it was a pain in the neck to price my entire inventory the next day before the
In
show.
cash too.
Well, I still did it in USD and just said, hey, we're going to convert it here at the table because I'm not trying to do this whole thing again.
So the first show I did in Canada, I put in USD. The second show, I was like, you know what? I'll put a little bit more effort into it, and I'll put it in CAD because you probably had this experience. Everyone walks up and they're like, "Is this in USD or is this in CAD?"
So what I did is I got 6 pieces of paper and just wrote prices in USD and put it in every single display case.
Smart.
A lot of the Canadians, though, they're also used to that because they know you live in the US. They can pretty much assume, but you get the random person who doesn't look.
Well, and the show I went to was in Toronto, which is just on the other side of the border from New York, really. So like there were a good amount of people who had USD, maybe like 10% of them. Some people were like, please take my USD because they had just come from a US show and wanted to get rid of it. So it's kind of interesting.
There are a bunch of people too in Canada. A lot of the vendors there, they'll keep USD because they just want to keep it. So when they travel for the US shows like Collect the Con, they don't have to swap it every single time. Yeah. And I don't know if you experience this, but every single time I have an international show, there's always people walking around saying, hey, I'll swap your local currency for USD, or I'll even do it vice versa if you want. Like there are guys that do it both ways. So it's never too complicated to get the currency or get rid of the currency. And at the end of the day, if you have extra currency, like let's say CAD, you can just go walk around the show floor and buy something so you don't have to carry that much cash.
Yeah, that's what we did. I came home with exactly 0 Canadian dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with Singapore. I did the same thing. So it usually works out pretty well. But I will say, even for me, there is anxiety regarding like what to do with the cash, how to bring cash in, how to take payment.
One thing that was complicated for me was like, I bought a lot of cards there, and this was in March when like low pop was booming. And so I bought a good amount of low pop cards over there because people were, trying to move them and realize their gains and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And there were a number of times, and even now there's still a couple cards that I have in my inventory from that trip where I'm like, I don't remember my cost basis in this card because I paid for it in Canadian dollars. And so I don't know if I paid 5K US or 5K Canadian for this, which is a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's like literally like a 30% difference or something. So it would be good to remember that if I could.
The funny thing is, every time I have these international shows, I'm like, thank God we record everything. I can go back and watch the footage technically. Yeah. I say that and then I never watch the footage.
Yeah. Wow. Love
Jake,
it.
When you were doing the stickers thing, how did you, I assume you didn't like manually recomp everything. Did you like make a spreadsheet or take photos with all your original stickers, or?
No, I literally decided that it would be faster just because I just said, you know what, we're not going to price cards this week. We're just, I'm just going to price them when I get there. And so, yeah, like we literally just recomped every single thing we had, bro.
Yikes.
I mean, you always want to be up to date on prices too, right? I don't know if you guys do, but I'm sure we always comp the night before just to make sure you're not giving away the biggest donation.
On bigger slabs, for sure, I still do that.
Yeah,
but to be totally frank, dude, like we do a lot of singles, and so I mean, it's got to be, I don't know, it's got to be like 600 singles that we have in our case or behind this table and stuff. There's just no way we can do it the night before.
Right.
Same. Yeah, same. It takes me, if I actually really want to recomp everything, it takes me probably close to in the realm of 20 hours to do everything, because it's same thing. It's like 500 singles and maybe 100 slabs depending on the show, give or take. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. So to the same thing, it's like for a lot of the mid-era like XY black and white stuff, if I've comped them in the last like month, I usually won't recomp those. But like modern moves around a lot, so like bigger modern cards I'll look at, and then same thing with like slabs and stuff for sure.
But I mean, also like a couple bucks here and there is not going to hurt you, right? Like it's not worth your time either to
totally. Yeah. If I have 155 on a card and it's actually 160, like great, have it for 155. I'm always going to honor that sticker. I was happy to sell it for 155 a week ago. That hasn't changed if the card had one slightly higher comp. Like whatever I wrote on the card, if I brought it to the show and I put it out on the table, I was happy to sell it for that price.
Someone's happy they got a $5 discount, right? So
totally great. Yeah, whatever. Like that, we were probably going to do that anyway. So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's some good advice on the international piece. Thank you again, Will. Yeah, I just want to again for the chat here. Shout out to Will. Thanks for your time, man. Thanks for sharing your expertise. I would define myself as someone who doesn't seek advice often, but you are one of the people that I ask questions of about, cards that comp or relative liquidity or things like that, every so often. So thanks for always being so open. And other than that, maybe we pivot into the Q&A.
I think we should. Let's do it. I've started 15 or so good questions. So I think we have a couple more coming in. So maybe I'll pick one. This is also a good time now that we're 2 hours in. We're doing great for about a 2.5 hour stream, give or take. I'm going to pick a question and then run to the restroom. And if we want to if anyone needs to do that, take shifts on that, we can do that. But let's pick Snorlaxing TCG from earlier in the stream said, with PSA cutting down on their grading, do you think PSA 8 and 9 are going to be more expensive?
I've actually answered this question in a number of different places over the last few months, since PSA has kind of raised prices and put a smackdown on the lower tiers. The answer is PSA is not cutting down on their grading. They have like a 12 million card backlog right now that they're working through. So they're still grading like 1 million cards a month. So I don't expect a change from a quantity standpoint because of what they've done in the last couple of months.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think it's the PSA 8s or 9s that are going to move up in price. I think if anything, the 10s will move up in price because 8 and 9s aren't going to become more desirable just because there are less of them. People don't really. There aren't that many people going for 8 or 9s to begin with. It's usually people that just like to have it encased and slabbed up, not because they like the quality of a PSA 9 card. Because usually PSA 9s are like off center. You can tell they're off center. They have whitening on the back. So I don't think people are going to be paying a premium to get copies that are rejects.
Yeah, great point. Next question for the Q&A. Have you ever talked someone out of selling their collection to you? Not because you didn't see the value in taking it in, but that you could see that they were unsure they were about giving it up. Implode, yeah, I think I actually have a couple of these instances like in videos from earlier on, maybe a year ago or so, where someone came to the table and you can just sense that they have an emotional connection to the cards these days. And I think most vendors do this now. Like someone's like, hey, here's my binder of things I might trade into the table, or I'm looking to sell some of these. My first question is like, hey, like these are your cards. You just tell me what's off limits. Cause like I'm not trying to talk you out of your card. It is all about what you're trying to do. And if we can make a deal work based on what you're trying to get rid of. But yeah, I've definitely said those kinds of words, and someone's been like, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm actually just going to keep these. Like, perfect. They're awesome. Enjoy.
Or at a bare minimum, if someone's like, that's my favorite one, I'll tell them like, you'll regret selling it. Just
I'm not buying it if it's your favorite.
Yeah, if you want to sell the others, but like if there's memories with this specific one, like trust me, just keep it. Like I've definitely said that. I probably once a weekend at a show, roughly.
Yeah, I think the opposite of that coin is also you don't want to be the one trying to pry it out of their hands,
Yeah.
Like you don't want to have to convince them why they should sell the card that they're not really looking to sell or trade away. I mean, unless you're money hungry, but I don't think any of us are at that. So
a bad deal is one where like you have to do like all that kind of salesmanship, like, well, I think one of the reasons why vendor POV and all of us have successful vendor POV videos, right? A reason why it has gotten so popular and mainstream and has so many viewers is because there's just so many instances of like mutually beneficial deals happening, right? Where no one has to be icky and like, try to pry a card out of one person's hand, and no one has to like talk trash about the other person's card. It's like, no, I like your stuff, but you don't want it as much. You like my stuff, but I'm willing to sell it and we can come to a deal. That's the magic of this hobby right now.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us wants anyone walking away with a negative experience. So that's also important too.
Of course. Chompers55 asked, do most vendors comp PSA 9 slabs as raw when buying?
No, we actually comp them.
I think it depends though. Like a lot of modern cards, the price is about the same. So
like the lower end stuff, right? Like the IRs or like some of the less desirable SIRs and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
But definitely not for anything older than a few years old.
I tell people that, like, if they're really insisting on trading in a PSA 9 that I've already told them that I don't want, but I would have been willing to take it in if it was already ungraded, I tell them I'm not taking this. But if you really want me to take it, as in like you really want it to be part of the deal that we're working out, then I will make you an offer in accordance with the raw price. I'm not forcing you to do that. I'm happy to not take it, but it's, it's up to you. And sometimes they keep it because they want the premium, and sometimes they don't because they just want to get out of it. That's, again, another piece of transparency at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And so if I say that kind of thing, I actually will crack the card right there at the table. And personally, I slip the label into the top loader. So if you come to my table, you'll see that with cracked cards.
Nice.
ASAP Gabe, what are 3 cards right now that you guys can't keep inside your case?
That meaning they move too fast?
I think that's what they mean.
Ironically, I sold every form of Blastoise from 151 that I had at my table this past weekend. I think we had like 3 raw copies. We bought a 10 and sold a 10 for whatever reason. That one just absolutely flew.
Huh.
But then again, like, it's 151. Those all sell constantly all the time.
That and the Charizard were the things that barely sold. I mean, I think we moved 2 of the raw. We had like 6 of the Blastoise 151 raw, and we took 2 in during the show. I think we sold 2, but 151 was flying this past weekend. For me, it is the Sylveon EX from Radiant Collection came to mind. That really cutie card. We bought that in a collection buy, and JT goes, "Can you just pull that one out? It's going to sell." And literally 3 minutes later, he goes, "Guess what card just sold?" And there's like a woman at the other end of the table actively sending a Zell. I go, "The Sylveon?" He goes, "Yeah, the Sylveon." And it was some other cutie card. But yeah, that Sylveon EX from Radiant is anything MP or better. It would maybe it'll last 10 minutes at a busy show. Tops.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip on this one because I think it's hard for me to stock 3 of the same card for slabs at least.
He's got 3 of the Japanese Ray at the he started the program with 3
I
of
don't bring them all. I don't.
Yeah, I can't keep my Gold Star Rayquaza PSA 10s in stock. I only made $450,000 today. It was crazy.
I will say the ponchos are still flying though. So that's
ponchos are.
Yeah.
The real 5 a.m. For people starting to vend at local shows, what do you recommend cards you get for building inventory price range? Like 1 to 25, 25 to 100, 100 to 250, etc. Which bracket is the most important?
I'm gonna say if these are my options, 25 to 100 is like the bread and butter for when you're getting started.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree.
I think also depends on what your budget is and how much capital you have to deploy too. So
yeah. What do you like? What do you know? Those are obviously other qualifying questions I would want to know before like giving a hard answer. Right. But I like the kind of like 25 to 100 range. Still, for us, it's 40 to 100. Just because we moved that floor up over time. But I still like 40 to 100 because whatever you buy them at 80%, you still make like your $5 or $10 here and there. So it still feels sort of like worth the effort.
And there's a lot of really liquid.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what we sold the most of, like in terms of the number of transactions at Front Row by far was probably like 40 to 200 would probably be what I would say that the range was. But we sold nonstop for that stuff. B Day Liu just asked, where do you see the Mario Luigi Poncho Full Arts heading? I feel like it's reached its peak.
I feel like he's asking me. I believe in the Mario. And if the Mario moves up, the Luigi moves up with it. So I've been buying Marios pretty publicly. So yeah,
I think the Mario's a 50K card. I think it has those legs.
I will say it's pretty interesting that the box has been moving up in price. The PSA 10 has not. I think the box just sold publicly for like 39,000, which is a lot of money based on where the PSA 10s are. That's basically almost the equivalent to the PSA 10 price of the pair. And that's without accounting for grading fees. And right now it's like $1,500 to grade both of them if they gem. So
I saw something similar with the some of the other poncho boxes though. So the skull box is like, it's like what 14 to 15K now for a box, but the 10 is basically like 14 for the full art, and then the half art is like 3.5.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, with grading fees, like you literally break even.
Right. So they're creeping up just because the boxes are getting more scarce too, and the pop is slowing down just the higher in value they go. So yeah, I don't think it's reached its peak. It's come down since its peak, if anything, but I think it's getting ready for another leg up, personally.
Pocket Pals Hub said, Will, you have one of the calmest and most pleasant demeanors in the entire vending space. High-key regulated nervous system. How much money you move, how much content you make, and how much you travel. How do you keep it all under control? Do you have a private chef? I don't know if that feels like an inside joke, maybe. Love you. So much respect for what you do.
Definitely not an inside joke.
I think Pocket Pals Hub is a chef. Like, I feel like they have chef experience, if I remember right. Maybe I'm wrong here. So maybe that's why they have that.
Entertainment. He's like sounds.
Oh yes, that's right. Like showbiz. That's right.
Yeah. I will say that I don't cook anymore. To answer that part specifically, it's funny. I don't know if you guys know what plus EV and minus EV is, but like I think cooking is minus EV for time at least. So I mean, yeah, I try to maximize the amount of time I have to put in the business and also to take personal time off for myself. So that's one thing I did cut out.
Yeah. Shout out to DoorDash.
Yeah, no, seriously though. It's really embarrassing to admit, but it's the truth.
Shout out to spending money on things that get you back some time.
Yeah, no, for real though.
ASAP Gabe, what slab price range do you guys feel you have the best success with? Success, I guess, how would you define frequency, liquidity, profit?
Success, let's define it here as like all things considered based on how, it's relative liquidity, the margin you can buy it at, the margin you can sell it at. What would you make the most money on per unit of time?
Mid 4-figure cards for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I would say like 5,000 to 15,000 maybe. 15 only because the ponchos are like 15 now, but it's usually like 5 to 10 or 5 to 12,000.
Yep, I completely agree. Because in my experience, like if you have to sell one of those, like, and you kind of want to like sell it for less than you really wanted to, you'll still make like $1,000. But if you can get your number on it every now and again, then you'll make that $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 margin. And yeah, that's a great place to be.
Hot Singles TCG. This was during a conversation where it was really relevant, but I think we can still ask it. How can you tell which comps are shilled and which are legit on high-end cards?
There's a card recently, Giratina. I don't know the Japanese set name, but Giratina EX from X and Y era. It sold for 5,500, 5,500, and 6,000 all on June 22nd. And before that, it sold maybe once in the entire month of June. A guy brought that up to me at Singapore and was asking like 4,000, which is a pretty good percentage. But I looked at the comps and I was like, that's kind of fishy. I wonder why it's selling 3 times on the same day when it's not that liquid of a card. I went and checked out the auctions. Well, one was a buy it now, 2 of them were auctions. Every single auction, it was a 0 feedback bidding against like a 5 feedback bidding against 0 feedback. And then maybe the winner was like 35 feedback. Which 35 feedback can be legit, but when it's them 2 bidding up the entire way up, it's probably the same person or the same group. Mm-hmm. And both auctions were like that. Obviously, the buy it now, you can't really tell. But yeah, so it, like just right off the bat, fishy because it sold 3 times on the same day. He said he wanted like $4,000. I said no. I think this card is realistically worth like 3 because that's what the sale was prior to the 5,500s. I ended up buying it actually. So I don't know what's going to happen with that card. We'll see. But yeah, it's just sometimes you can tell. Sometimes you can tell. Maybe it's not higher than that though. Like 100,000. You know how like all the recent Fanatics auctions, some of them didn't go paid and stuff like that. That one's a lot harder to sell though.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these apps are already designed to like eliminate things when they are left unpaid, or at least to mark them as unpaid. And they also allow you to click into the actual listing as it was sold, and you can also search it under 130 point and see what the best offer was. And there's some things that you can do to really try to figure out what exactly it sold for, and if the buyer and the seller were, more, on the up and up, so to speak. But it's not a perfect science for sure.
Yeah, I will say Card Ladder specifically has kind of lacked or like slowed, been super laggy on taking those comps down, especially on some of the bigger stuff. It was up there sometimes in some cases like for a month or two. Might even still be, I haven't checked, but it is a dangerous game. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It does feel like alt usually pulls them down within a week or so. So that's another thing. If there's if there's a suspicious looking auction with exactly the kind of bidding behavior that Will just talked about, and it's within the last week, like you might be cautious about that. If it's a really big buy, totally agree. I mean, there's another thing I think on Card Ladder, there's a green check. That means that their like internal human research team verified it. So I'm not sure what is involved in that, but that might be. And it's still not hard and fast. I wouldn't take it as a guarantee necessarily without knowing what their process is, but there might be a little sort of extra layer of confidence to that.
Here's a tip for everybody who uses eBay for comps. If there's a comp on eBay, to check if it's paid or not, you can go on the research tab. It's called TerraPeak, but it's a tab on eBay's seller account page, and it says research. If you click on research, it'll bring an app called TerraPeak, and if any card shows up on TerraPeak, it means it was paid on eBay.
That's a nice tip.
That is I've never heard that before.
I think the easiest way to get there is probably just Googling eBay TerraPeak. But like I said, if you go on your account page, go to the research tab and click search or something like that, then the it's a chart and you can search up listings and sold listings. And if any sold listings appear there, like that means eBay's gotten the payment already.
Free game.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that one. That one's from the sports side.
Tang TCG just asked, I think, a pretty interesting question, sort of in 3 parts. Have y'all ever touched on the repacking meta? We have. We've talked about it a few times, but we can get a little deeper here. Now at Collecticons, there's no point. I don't know if I agree with that, but no point in people coming to sell to regular vendors versus repackers. The only advantage regular vendors have is trade for the most part. Feel like the play, or that there is a play around buying locally and just bulk reselling at CACs. It is interesting. I think, oh boy, it's a hard one to answer.
It's a huge question.
It's a huge question. I maybe to address the second part of it here, I do think there is geo arbitrage to do. We were just talking about this with some of our mentorship clients from the first cohort, because one of them lives in Ohio and the other one lives in Florida, and the ability to source at at competitive percentages in Ohio is very different than in Orlando, but the sell-through it's reverse. Basically, they have completely opposite problems in their geo, and so they were even discussing, like, is there a way that we could potentially collaborate and take advantage of that geographic arbitrage? So I do think there is a play there. I don't know if it's the play. It's not a thing I am doing, but I think depending on where you live, there are people who can definitely do something with that. I 100% agree on that piece.
Yeah, actually, I made this point in my last 2 Fanatics live streams, where the first one I was just coming off of the Vegas Collecticon, and then this past weekend I was home from the Phoenix Front Row. Collecticon specifically has turned into a wholesale like bonanza. Like the first 3-4 rows of Collecticon are like 90% people who like have booths to source for repacks. And some of like the big vendors that you guys know, like, they are able to pay certain rates because they buy from you or they buy from this person, and then they do a 180-degree turn to the person behind them who is a repack buyer. Like that happens. And that isn't bad, but that just is a fact. And yeah, I mean, Collecticon has like, been kind of bombarded with that kind of more corporate feel, whereas I would say a lot of these other shows are not maybe not yet, or maybe the show organizers will not allow it to get to that point, to preserve both the vendor and the collector experience. Now, I know that on one hand, the person can say, well, the collector experience, they're looking to sell their cards and they deserve to get top dollar. And so they should, always go to a repacker. It isn't quite that simple. There are scenarios where it makes sense to go and sell to a repacker. I have personally many times had someone come to my booth and they say, hey, I want to sell this to you. What would you pay for it? And I look at the card, look at the item, and I say, I'm not going to be able to pay as high as the guy right there who is a repack sourcer. You should walk this card. You should walk this 50K collection 10 steps over, and they will pay you a higher number than me. That has definitely happened. And, well, Jar Chomp, why didn't you just, buy that and then flip it to the repacker? Well, because I wanted to give them a little bit of game. I wanted to save myself some time. Like, there's tons of different things that can go into that. But I would say that there's still a place for the vendors because of the fact that they can still just bring cool cards that you're looking for. And that's the whole point of card shows in the first place, is to go to find cool cards that you want to add for your collection. And so there's always going to be a place for that, because there's always a collector base. And that's the bread and butter of this entire hobby, is that there are collectors who actually want this stuff. And I'm one of them, and Ricky's one of them, and Will's one of them.
Yeah, I've definitely done that too. I mean, West Coast, you were there, Jake, but right next to me was one of the biggest repackers in the business. And I literally did the same thing the entire weekend. If they had stuff that I didn't necessarily want or knew that they could get a better number on, I'm just like, the guy right next to me, literally right next to me, will pay you like so-and-so percentage. If you want to go sell it, sell to him. Yeah, I mean, I think it's there. It kind of sucks for the regular vendor who goes to CollectCon expecting, like huge buying opportunities when they're not as readily available as they used to be. But I mean, I think trades are such a bigger part of this entire ecosystem now, because the values are getting so much higher.
Yes.
So I think there are still opportunities to get new inventory, not just using cash, but using trade as well. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, the other thing about repackers is, and if you're someone who goes to a card show and you feel like you're relatively savvy based on what your cards are worth, if you go to a repacker, they're going to give you one number and one number only. Your card is worth this. Take it or leave it. And if you leave it, they're like, perfect. Next in line, you can wait in the line for another hour, and then you can get another chance. If you want to go have a negotiation with someone about what your card is worth and potentially get, a higher number, or, a trade into something, you're going to have to talk to someone who is, trying to buy for their own business and not for somebody else's. So there's always going to be a place for it.
Quick shout out for Nev Fuji.
Nev Fuji, thank you so much for the support. Nev Fuji, through thick and thin, has always supported the stream, the channel. Appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, same. Nev is always an extremely positive presence in my stream sales as well. So shout out, Nev. Maybe we go just like one to two more questions, and then we okay.
Let's find one more good one. I got to catch up on House of the Dragon tonight, guys.
Okay. Maybe just a quick one for Will here. Eagle Scout John asked, Will, what's your favorite Pokemon?
I have two. I can't pick one. Reshiram and Suicune. So Suicune from Crown Zenith and V-Star Universe. I think I have like 50 raw copies and like 20 PSA 10s or something like that. Okay. I just like the card. Reshiram, I was buying the black and white Reshiram before Celebrations came out. Back when I first started collecting again during COVID, I had a whole binder page full of them. That's my favorite Reshiram card. They've come recently out with a bunch of new Reshirams in black, the black and white sets, and then also Ends Reshiram. So yeah, I'm collecting a lot of those. Have a bunch of copies of those, but those are my top two.
Nice.
You like Evolutions too, don't you, Will?
I think they're cool. I wouldn't say I love them, but I like Evolving Skies as a set because it's so cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I know that you made a big play on the prismatic Evolutions there for a bit. I understood that.
I wasn't a huge fan of the art, not gonna lie. It just made sense on like a pop scale.
Yeah.
Gem. Yeah.
Last one I picked here for Cole World 55 asking, any cards you guys are looking to pick up soon?
Wow.
Legendary collection reverse hollows.
In what grades?
Those are so hot right now. In any grade of raw, it doesn't matter what it is. They sell so fast right now. Yeah.
I'm master setting, Will. You probably don't know this. I'm working on a master set of just the reverse hollow legendary collections in a binder.
How far are you?
About a third of the way. I think I have 30 something last I checked. Yeah, 34, 35. Almost every show I'll like do a huge, like I'll buy one of the collections I bought this weekend had one that I didn't have yet. So it's one of those, like, I'll just skim a little $100 gift for myself each show. And I've been building the binder that, like, obviously I could just go out and buy all the pieces of it. Like I'm intentionally being like, I want this to take like 18 months and just to find it like onesie twosie like that. So
that's what I did with a Suicune. Every time I got one in trade when I was still doing singles, I just put them in the box, brought them home, and put them in a stack. Yeah.
My answer for this, it's not cards picking up soon. I have some things in trans. I went on a spree recently. I spent like $14,000 on my PC in the last week. So obviously I showed you the Aquapolis Lugia at the beginning. I bought 3 copies of this right at the peak. So already a Clefumble, but I'm not too worried about it. But Chinese exclusives, the Gengar, once I sold the black label, I went and bought, I accidentally bought 4 of these. I meant to buy 3. I think I said that last stream. And then I have 3 mouse holds on the way. One of them is for JT. One of them I'll kind of hold on to. And one of them is for the PC. So those are all.
Mouse hold is gas.
That mouse hold is crazy. So yeah, I absolutely needed it. I had a harder, much harder time sourcing. I put out the bat signal, immediately found one guy to buy like a bunch of these from. Nobody had the mouse hold for me. So I just bought the 3 nicest looking ones I could find, buy it now on eBay.
I am about 45 cards away from finishing my Expedition, Aquapolis, and Skyridge Master set. I found 7 cards that I needed. Almost all of them were all just niche reverses from Aquapolis and Skyridge. Mm-hmm. I have Expedition is actually done. But yeah, so I have 45 cards left to finish those 2. And then I also decided that in that binder, because like, you know, the way that it works is I'm not filling every single slot in the binder. And so I'm trying to think about what kind of small sets are similar time frame that I could add to the binder to kind of round out those empty spots in it. So I also added the best of and winner set from WotC. There's 15 of those, and so those are a part of that binder. And I also decided that I'm going to have all 6 first appearance tops cards in there. So I already have Lugia, Bellossom, Elekid, and Lediba, and so I still need Hoot Hoot and Slowking.
Nice. Yeah, you were maybe it was on Sunday when it was quite a bit slow. I mean, Saturday was so packed in front row. Sunday was like a much more kind of steady pace. Yep. And I think you were running around looking for PC pickup.
Yeah. I found one booth and then the guy next to him. So between those two tables, I found 7 of the 50 whatever cards I needed left. So it was over 10% of what I still needed in my set, which is actually kind of crazy to find at one booth.
Wow.
So
fair play. All right, y'all, I think we call it there. We always end customarily on the Elite Forecast. So before we go, let's tell the chat what is just a call that we're going to make for folks that are new. Maybe sometimes we think the Pokemon company is going to do this in 30th anniversary. A lot of the time we think X is going to be Y price on Z date. And we try to be really specific, and we will roast if you're not specific enough. Before we'll shout out Wind Waker for that real quick. But yeah, what's the Elite Forecast?
Mine's gonna be on the specific card. I don't think that Rayquaza Gold Star breaks 1 million. A lot of people have been talking about that card breaking 1 million. I think it does slightly under, like maybe 800, 850.
So
wow, weak. That's so cheap.
Jake,
the last sale privately was like 600, so that's a $250, $100,000 increase.
I know. I'm speaking facetiously.
Jake, I don't think you're in our prep doc, but I almost need you to back me up that I wrote. You could go into the version history. My Elite Forecast is that the Ray Gold Star ends at 825K.
Oh, I did not see that.
I don't have access to that doc. That must be something you made up to cover your tracks here.
You have access to the doc. You can look at the version.
It must be something that because you clearly couldn't think of anything original. You had to just copy Will immediately.
Jake, this is not helping me at all. The way that
I know the Pokemans is hard, dude, but you don't have to just copy people.
I literally thought we were friends. You could have gone in there and looked at the version history and backed me up, but I guess I know where I stand.
Sorry, I didn't think I was stealing your thunder.
No, dude, I think that's fascinating. We said the same thing. Like you had no idea that's what I wrote. Ray Gold Star PSA 10 auction ends at 825K. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm gonna go with the Mega Rayquaza Chase card. So my guess is they're gonna do an SIR and a gold version in the Delta Rain set. I'm gonna guess that the SIR. I won't guess exactly at release because it's just kind of messy, but I'm gonna say even 2 months after release is still going to be $1,000 raw card.
What is Charizard from Inferno X doing or Phantasmal doing?
25,
$800.
800. So Rayquaza would be more. I could get on board with that.
I mean, so examples of it being more like Mega Gengar and also the Pikachu are both more.
1,400.
I think the tough part is we haven't seen what it looks like yet, though.
I know, I love it.
But remember when the Lugia came out from Silver Tempest and everybody was disappointed?
I remember people being disappointed, and I remember disagreeing with them because I think it's so spooky and like it gives me like Gale of Darkness vibes. It's a cool card.
But I think that Lugia, if it was more popular, would be a lot more expensive. Than it currently is. No hate on
this is a whole can of worms. Will, I really feel like some of the main chases from Sword and Shield, people have just decided that they're just not going to be worth what they should be because they came out during a generation when the boxes were not as high demand as they are today. Like the Lugia, like the Charizard V from Brilliant Stars is an alt-art Charizard that's under $1,000. That is so busted.
I mean, the V Star is like what? 250 or something like that.
Yeah. Too cheap.
Yeah.
A shiny Charizard V from Champion's Path is like $400 and a 10.
Yeah.
It's impossible to pull that card.
And that set is terrible too, so no one's opening that set either.
Yeah. So if Champion's Path comes out in 2025, those are 2K cards, both the rainbow and the shiny one. Like it just depends when they're released.
For sure.
Yeah. Interesting take. Real quick before we roll out the red carpet for Will, our friend Wind Waker could not make today's stream, but $20 super chat, very sweet, always supporting. Not sure if the virality from announcing the next course was talked about today. Just wanted to give my 2 cents. I personally wouldn't pay a dime to hear any advice from Jake. I'd pay 10K for Ricky's advice, though.
That's perfect. Because basically you'd pay for yourself and 3 friends to go hang out with Ricky for a couple months. So Wind Waker, actually, where's JT? Can we get this guy banned? I'm so tired.
Wind Waker. Shout out Wind Waker.
All things considered, thank you guys for rocking with us. We know it's been a very interesting news week. We had a really fun time, and we were really excited to have Will on the program today because he is, like Ricky said, he is a Pokemon card ball knower, and we really appreciate his expertise. And hopefully we can have you on again in the future when you've sold your Rayquazas for millions and retired. But why would you retire? I mean, you just DoorDash your food already as it is. You get bored, wouldn't you?
No, I can start cooking for myself.
Well, we've had a lot of amazing guests on. This was a blast of an episode. Like I learned a ton. So really appreciate you being transparent to a level that is not necessary on a segment of the hobby that is like very much gate kept. So man, you're somebody that Jake and I both, I know, watched before we ever got into content. And so it's like always taking inspiration from you. I don't know if you'll remember from Collecticon LA, I have a Gengar EX. You remember a Gengar EX from Fire Red Leaf Green in my binder. So
that's awesome. You still have it.
That's a PC, PC stalwart for me. So thanks, man. Like seriously, you're awesome.
Honored to be here. Love what you guys do for the hobby. Anytime you guys ever want me back on, I'm totally down. Totally game.
Thanks, man. Well, where can people find you if they want to support you, brother?
Instagram, YouTube, Pokestop, TCG. That's my handle. follow, subscribe. I don't know. Watch the content, hopefully.
Yeah, follow, subscribe, buy his Rayquazas. You know, he needs a little spending money for DoorDash. That's all we got, folks. Everyone have a good night. We'll see you guys back here in 2 weeks. Other than that, happy July. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we're super grateful for this audience.
Yes. Love you guys.